Well, that's totally not ominous at all. I forgot that's what I named this. Should have added deluxe on it as well.
We can't do that here because we start this game playing as Yoshi, and Yoshi only knows how to eat. So, what's a dinosaur with a broken leg from too many mirror dismounts supposed to do? Oh, we can slide kick instead. In this version of the game, we can slide kick by pressing A with momentum while crouching and perform a roll-out flip with the same button. This is all we need to enter Bob-omb Battlefield. Bob-omb Battlefield's really not that bad. There's only one ledge and one gap we have to traverse for most areas of the course, and the gap isn't even a difficult one. The hardest part is getting used to our new controls while we head up the mountain and blow up this old boomer. The second star just requires us to climb the mountain again, but faster, so it's no problem either. Although we do have to become Mario by putting on his cap because Koopa the Quick refuses to race anyone else. He might be a little obsessed, just saying. Next star, though, is a Silver Star mission. These are brand new for the DS version, requiring you to grab 5 silver stars to make a Power Star appear. This one
I
shows us
remember
one
these
of our
videos.
new
Why are they getting recommended to me again? They're so cringe. But the songs are good. Oh god, I remember. I remember. I remember. I remember. Oh god. Oh no. No! Mission succeeded failurely. I guess. The songs got me in the mood. You know, I'm gonna die here. Minotaurs apparently just spawn in the plains. Whose good idea was that? I'm clever, but that can only do so much. Where's that goddamn skeleton? Your aim is shit. I can't believe I died to that guy. It was all the lag's fault. I do still need leather. I want the backpack so I can fully integrate to this new wooden box house I have in the meantime. Exquisite arrow of weakness. As if I could already do damage on you, lady. Please, I wanna make a farm. Why were these even recommended to me? By the way, you might have noticed, even though I have Optifine on, the grass texture still looks like this. That's because I actually don't like grass being able to grow on the sides either. It doesn't look good in my opinion. Oh, and also, I'm pretty sure, yep, that's lovely. It genuinely is. Guess I'm just listening to music. Turn chunk updates back to 1. Maybe that will do some less stuttering. I disabled view bobbing. I like view bobbing, but oh my god. There's 2 of them. set up a sugarcane farm. I guess I should just make my own. Oh my god. Why do they have so much health? Yeah, actually, it is. I guess I'll hold off on the sugarcane farm until I have an actual house. What was I gonna do again? Alright, fence. Maybe you can be my melody, sing to me a song of hopeful stars. Maybe you can be my remedy, we will never be apart. Hold on to me tight and don't let go. Hold on to my hand and lead me home. Many roads and journeys, but will I ever know? Searching for the path this world I roam. I will there soon. My hope is still with me. I'm tired of all these twists and turns. Where do I go? I swear that I've been here before. My lost heart is leading me forward. Maybe that you've been waiting for me. Maybe yeah, you could be my home. Maybe you can be my melody. Sing to me a song of hopeful stars. Maybe you can be my remedy. We will never be apart. Hold on to me tight and don't let go. Grab onto my hand and lead me home. Never ending roads and journeys, but will I ever know? Searching for the path this road I roam. I'll be there soon. My hope is here for me. Sky, nobody can describe this feeling, can't deny. Or are you blind to the life of me? disabled diagonal fences. I don't know why they were a thing. They were really cursed. And that happened. Wow, I'm so good. Wow, I am really good. Wow, I'm just the best. Fuck. could and should probably just start going mining for diamonds. I'll go see if I can snag any more coal in the meantime. And then when nighttime hits, I'm gonna go strip mine.
Landscape has turned to red. This whole world's crumbled without but a trace. The stars are shining too beautifully tonight. Memories are
Anyway, I like view bobbing, but I understand some people might have disorientation problems with those. So I've disabled it so people can more easily watch my videos. Well, as easy as they are, assuming the Mandragoras decide to behave.
I'll gladly give up my everything.
Rises in the east and sets in the west, doesn't it? Where is Mr. Sun? Shit. Whatever, let's just get to mining.
Beautiful stars whisper so sweetly to me, then they draw me into the night. If I might have forgiveness, I'll play my fingers
me not updating the lights should be causing some lag. That means updating every time the light level changes, which happens a lot, so disabling it too hard.
Worked on the snacks you taught me, but now I see things differently. I gained a new perspective.
What am I doing when Minecraft music is just as good?
What's your favorite mode of transport in Minecraft? Is it the classic railway? Is it the horse? Or is it the nether hub, the only method that requires a mathematics formula? There are several methods of getting from point A to point B in your world, and all of them have their own ups and downs. But if you've been playing the game for a long enough time, you've punched your first tree, you've explored the nether, and you went far enough into the game to defeat the Ender Dragon, there's a really high chance that you've experienced what it's like to travel with an Elytra. For most of you, it is your favorite way of traveling the world, but for some of you, it may be your least favorite. No! And that's what this video is about. Welcome back to Minecraft's Most Controversials. In episode 2, we'll be covering the Elytra, the equipment that either ruined Minecraft forever or made it better depending on who you ask. As usual, before we discuss why the Elytra is so controversial, let's first talk about its history. The Elytra was released in Update 1.9, the combat update, just like Mending from the first episode. I'm sensing a potential pattern here. However, despite being released in the same update, the Elytra wasn't released under the same popularity. You see, Mending was released as a rare enchantment, but it was released overpowered as hell and quickly skyrocketed to be the best enchantment. It was so good, it remained pretty much unchanged throughout most of its lifetime. The Elytra was also released as a rare item, only obtainable after defeating the Ender Dragon. Since Mending was a rather new feature and phantoms weren't in the game yet, I wish they kept it that way, the Elytra was mostly repaired with leather on an anvil. It received generally positive reception by the community on release, but eventually, the Elytra would obtain the opposite status. The community would start to believe that it was underpowered instead. Players felt that it wasn't really worth the effort. You go through so much, and for what? Just a few seconds of gliding? For an item that you get after beating the game, it was very underwhelming. And it wasn't even going to last. The Elytra had a pretty weak durability, and players felt like they broke far too quickly to be used. At worst, the Elytra was a complete waste of time for something you would never use. And at best, the Elytra was a glorified Featherfalling boots, preventing you from ever taking fall damage. Most of the time, that is. You see, Mojang released the Elytra primarily for us to glide to safety. They didn't really release it with the intention of letting the player fly per se. To propel or keep yourself in the air with an Elytra, you had to do a weak attack from a bow with a punch-through enchantment. By doing a light tap on your bow, you shoot the arrow as close to you as possible. The Elytra's wider hitbox will make you travel past the arrow slightly, just enough for the game to let the arrow hit you. You are using the knockback from being hit by your own arrows to give yourself a boost, hurting yourself just to travel a few extra distances. But this all seems like a simple feature with a simple history, right? It made you glide safely to the ground, but you could make yourself fly if you had the skill and patience for it. So how did it become so controversial over the game's lifespan? Well, let's explore the arguments for and against the Elytra as a feature. Despite the Elytra's rough start, it would eventually end up in a similar fashion to Mending. Anti-Elytra argument 1. it's overpowered. Or rather, it became overpowered. In update 1.11.1, the Elytra was buffed. You could now propel yourself to the skies and continue flying with firework rockets rather than shooting yourself with arrows. Firework rockets were an easier and much more reliable method of traveling with an Elytra. And you didn't need to calculate the velocities and vectors and angles of trajectories of how to shoot yourself with arrows to continue flying. Flying with an Elytra was as easy as double-clicking your spacebar and then pressing the right click in the direction you wanted to go. This skyrocketed the popularity of Elytra. To say that it became one of the most useful items in Minecraft would be a massive understatement. And just like mending, you kind of just used it for everything. Do you need to look for a swamp biome because you need to kill some slime for sticky piston contraptions? The Elytra works best. Do you need to build a house? But the building materials are over there in that chest. The Elytra gets the job done. Do you have a lot of farms that are all far from each other and you need the best method to travel quickly between them? You can just get an Elytra. Before the buffs, it was a calculated risk to pick your Elytra over a chest plate. And now, it was a no-brainer. The Elytra all the way. It's good. A bit too good in fact. We use it for too many things. Kinda like the like button. It's so good because it very reliably tells me if you're enjoying the video so far. However, the argument for the people on the pro Elytra side is that the Elytra is an endgame equipment. To obtain the Elytra, you first have to play through hours of the game to obtain Ender Pearls and Blaze Rods to create Eyes of Ender. Then spend another hour finding the end portal in the overworld. After that, you have to defeat the Ender Dragon. And then, and only then, can you spend another hour finding an end city. By the way, you have to find an end city that has an end ship. If you find an end city without an end ship, you get to spend more time finding more end cities. After fighting away through the shulkers and passing through a parkour course that literally everyone just levitates through, you finally, after everything, get one Elytra. But wait, my friend, did you remember to make firework rockets before you got here? No? Well, then, my friend, now you have to do an escape mission. There are plenty of ways you can lose the Elytra on the way back. You could throw a bad Ender Pearl and end up falling into the void. You could lose your bearings, forget the way back, and then succumbing to despair. And worst of all, you could have this happening to you. I got secondhand pain just from watching that. All of this, every single effort, this whole painstaking journey for one endgame equipment. And this isn't even factoring in maintenance. Mending is practically mandatory for the Elytra. You could use phantom membranes to repair your Elytras. Let's be honest, you're not gonna do that. I would rather stub my toe, be forced to tell everyone in public that I'm a League of Legends player, and forever call guns as Rooty Tooty point and shooty, if it means I get to remove phantoms from the game permanently. Pro Elytra people feel like an equipment you obtain this late into the game, requiring this much effort, and then requiring even more effort to maintain, should be overpowered by default. If you get one, you've earned it. If the Elytra wasn't as useful as today, then what reason do we even have to try again? Which leads us to the second point against Elytras. Minecraft has a wide array of methods to travel. Some automatic, some semi-automatic, some fully manual. The Elytra is so useful and so easy that it beats every single one of them. First of all, it required absolutely no setup past 1.11.1. No excavating and laying down tracks for a railway. No leads required for a stupid horse. No ice required for an iceboat track. The most difficult thing about traveling with an Elytra is getting the gunpowder needed for firework rockets, which is pretty fucking easy. The Elytra also worked anywhere, and with a few exceptions, the Elytra was just better, faster, and stronger than all of the methods listed. Is there any point in building a railway, a stable, or other modes of transport for any reasons other than it looks good? Why bother with any alternative when the Elytra was objectively the best way of traveling? There is little incentive to build roads, bridges, infrastructure. You never see stuff from the ground anymore. Elytra inhibits creativity, since it gives you free, quick movement anywhere without having to do any changes to the terrain. You're supposed to build in this game, and the game mechanics should encourage that, not discourage it. For them, the Elytra took away a majority of the structures you usually build in the game. Ever get the feeling that you've just done everything in the world and you're starting to get bored? Well, the Elytra was a speed lane into being done with the game. The counter for this from the pro Elytra side is the fact that what exactly did the Elytra ruin to begin with? Some would argue that it didn't really ruin anything or hinder any creativity to begin with. People need to travel vast distances, and I definitely argue that the Nether Highway isn't exactly creative, just more grindy. Some would go even further with that and argue that the Elytra isn't overpowered, everything else is underpowered. Minecarts always sucked. They were replaced by boats, which sucked less. Then boats were replaced by horses, because horses sucked even less. But then boats teleported behind horses. Nothing personal, kid. And boats replaced the horses who replaced boats in the form of ice boats, when they stopped breaking like the fragile mental stability of a college student on finals. And then finally, the Elytra replaced boats, because it sucked the least. It's not the Elytra's fault that minecarts require so much resources just to be slightly faster than sprint. It's not the Elytra's fault that horses can't pass through water. It's not the Elytra's fault that boats can't go out. All the Elytra did was highlight just how bad every other transport was, and players are just picking the most efficient form of transport currently available. The Elytra isn't the problem. It does not need a nerf. We should just buff every other transport instead. However, the counter-argument for this counter-argument is power creep. By buffing everything else, we may end up back to where we started. If the other transports become too good, then the Elytras are just not worth the effort anymore. Back to their status in update 1.9. Then we'll have to buff the Elytras again so they're worth the trip to the end. Going full circle. Everything just gets more and more powerful over time, to the point where the game is completely changed. We solve no problems by buffing other transports. All we do is make another problem to replace the one we have. Do you want Minecraft to be another Yu-Gi-Oh? Which leads us to the final and ultimate pro-Elytra argument. Those that don't like it currently can just don't use it. Let's be real.
Zombies.
What's the solution to the Elytra? The only other option is to nerf the Elytra itself. But that's a dangerous move. We've seen what happens when Mojang nerfs iron farms and gold farms.
Aha.
They don't end well. To give you a sense as to how bad these changes will be, let's just say, if they nerf the Elytra, I'll have to make a Minecraft's most controversial episode for the nerf to the Elytra. But funnily enough, Mojang almost went through with that. In an experimental snapshot in 1.18, Mojang considered making the Elytra only decrease in durability with Rocket Boost. They also considered nerfing Rocket Boost and making the Elytra break permanently like the rest of our equipment. Whether they reverted those changes due to community backlash or because the nerfs didn't have any meaningful impact, what matters is that Mojang has shown that the Elytra is here to stay whether people like it or not. And for those that don't, they unfortunately have to set their own rules and voluntarily exclude themselves from using it. Personally, I'm pro Elytra. I really like using it and I absolutely can't imagine myself not using it in the game today. If I had to nerf it, I'd probably give an enchantment to bows and crossbows that disables
Moving
the
around
Elytra,
feels so boring
much
without
like how
bobbing.
axes disable shields. This open rooms for counters against the Elytra, and it makes the Elytras vulnerable to skeletons and pillagers, while also opening room for skill expression in PvP. Those that are good with their aim can reliably defeat other players with an Elytra. I also think that the problem isn't the Elytra itself, it's the fact that the Anvil repair system sucks, and we're forced to use mending by default. We're forced to have permanent, unbreakable Elytras because the Anvil repair system is complete garbage. It's not even controversial where something is good and something is bad. It's just bad. Mending shares some of the blame if we are going to criticize the Elytra for what it is. Which is why you should check out the previous episode of Minecraft's most controversial, where I discuss why mending became a controversial feature of Minecraft. You'll see the reasons as to why so many people like mending and why so many people hate it instead. That'll give you an idea as to why mending may actually be the root cause for all of Elytra's controversies. I'll see you there.
This will be useful. Alright, I made the glint too low. There you go. I think there used to be like bookshelves here or something. Ooh. Hot damn, there's a mother lode here. I'm coming back to that later. Now I need to hurry home first. God damn it. Okay, speedrunning is impossible. Where are my gravel? I could make some arrows. That'd be really nice. Oh, what the fuck? I didn't know the orange shovel I got had enchantments on it. Neat. Okay. Anyone ever tried justifying how mobs spawns? Undead mobs and other hostile mobs specifically, and why they spawn at night? Obviously, there's plenty of theories on why they exist, but what about how they come to be during the night and why they just disappear shortly after daytime hits? Well, obviously, some of them burn, but we don't see all of them burn. I like to imagine, and I'd love it if there was like an animation mod that made this, but like I like to imagine they burrow from the ground because where do you see hostile mobs the most? On a place where it's dark and there's plenty of room for them to show, and that's the underground! Here is good. You're kidding me. I should take those back. There's no spawner there, but for some reason cave spiders spawn there. So either it's a part of the structure to do that, or there's a freaking mine shaft right next to where that thing was built somehow. But the cobwebs seem to suggest that's just how it naturally is for the structure, which just adds to the mystery. Anyway, yeah, they come from the ground. And obviously they only spawn on the overworld during the night because it's already established that they don't like light. Unless there is a spawner here, that would be bad. Let's just get out of here. Maybe it's hidden behind the hay. I don't feel like using my hoe. Ooh, grab it. Very scary.
New for the DS version, requiring you to grab 5 silver stars to make a power star here. This one shows us one of our new mortal enemies. Holes and trees. Good thing there's a cannon nearby to remind us that you can fire cannons with the A button. All we have to do is aim way above the silver star and shoot directly into it with the cannon. The rest are no problem. It's the same for the 4th star, a new one for this version, where we just have to beat up the old boomer again while cosplaying as Mario this time. Because of our limited movesets, I couldn't find any way to pound this post to break the chain shot right now, so we'll just leave this course for later with 4 stars in hand. Pretty nice so far. Next, we went to the Princess's Secret Slide. We can easily get into the window to enter the course, and there's no need to jump here normally, so we can get both the regular star and the timed star for finishing in less than 21 seconds. We'll gladly take 2 freebie stars. I then made the mistake of heading into Sunshine Isles, a brand new course for the DS version. It's a silver star mission, and I'm gonna save you all some time and say that we can't get this star because one of the silver stars we need is hiding on top of this tree, way out of our reach. I knew those trees were bad news. The next course we tackle is Wolf's Fortress. Only a small step up from Bob-omb Battlefield. It's significantly harder to navigate for us than Bob-omb Battlefield was, though, with more ledges and obstacles to deal with. Those reach King Womp at the top of the first star, one problem makes itself apparent. Although we can grab ledges during a rollout flip, we cannot ground pound. That's a bit of an issue when this boss can only be damaged by a ground pound. I did try using the nearby platforms. At their peak, they give you just barely enough height to pound King Womp. However, to say this is finicky would be an understatement. His position has to be perfect, your position has to be perfect, and the timing has to be perfect with the platforms too. I tried this for a while, but I got absolutely nowhere. Does that mean we can't get any stars here at all? Well, no, because the DS version added a new section of the level that's very nice to us. While this section isn't exactly easy to navigate jumpless, it does give us access to a timed switch star, another new invention of the DS version. The time limit is a concern, but we can still get there with plenty of time to spare if we nail our sick kickflips every time. With the star under our belt, we can get a Bob-Omb Buddy to spawn and open the cannon, which lets us blast away this wall for another easy star. Now that we have 8 stars, it's time to go grab Mario. This is yet another new thing added to the DS version. We have to rescue the other 3 characters in new courses, and here's a really cool looking one for Mario. It looks way more complicated than it really is. All we care about is heading over here and climbing this vine. While poles, trees, and vines are our mortal enemies, this one's nice enough that we can just barely reach the nearby ledge at the top if we press R to let go of the vine. Once we're up here, it's as simple as dropping into this opening and beating up Goon Boss. He's not made any harder by not jumping, so we have 0 issues making mushroom stew out of him. With that, we finally unlocked the ability to play as Mario in Super Mario 64 DS. The only question left is, how did Mario lose to that guy? Once Mario joined our band of landlocked legends, I went back to Womp's Fortress to grab Shoot into the Wild Blue. In the process, I found out that you can grab ledges out of a cannon shot. Guess you'll learn something new every day. Next course on our list is Cool Mountain, and it is actually a pretty cool course for this challenge. Slip, slide, and away and Big Penguin Race are relatively simple. Just head into the chimney and slide. You don't really need to jump. That's where the easy part ends, though. We can't get up to this upper ledge from the chimney because a rollout flip doesn't get high enough to grab the ledge. Instead, we'll have to try climbing up this slippery slope on the side, partially blocked by this ice block. It's really difficult to climb up here. Of course, we can't just walk up, so we have to chain slide kicks together to keep our balance and move up. It's incredibly easy to slide down or drift too far to the left or right and miss the slope altogether. I spent so long trying to get up here that the baby penguin got tired of my aimless shenanigans and came down the slope on its own. I've never gotten Little Penguin lost quite like that before. And don't worry, I didn't murder the baby penguin. I'm a good person, right? There was no such luck for the red coin star, though. I had to get up that slope, because one of the coins was frozen in that same ice block that was blocking the path up. This took way too many tries, and once I did it, I still wasn't out of the woods. There's this other coin and an ice block that's on an extremely dangerous ledge. Trying to get down here without sliding off is difficult. If you slip and slide on your belly, you can press A to recover easily, but if you start butt sliding, all you can do is hope you hit something. Otherwise, you're going down and there is nothing you can do about it. The wind can still save us, but it's not reliable. Once I managed to get both of these frozen red coins in one attempt, though, the rest weren't a problem thanks to this teleport making it easy to get back up the mountain. One issue I had left was getting to the spot where the red coin star spawns. Normally, you long jump across this gap in the broken bridge, but that's a bit too far for us to cross. Instead, I used a slide kick to head down the slope from the top of the mountain and then roll out flip while sliding to get onto this ledge and get the star from behind. Outside of getting up that evil slope again, Snowman's Lost His Head is incredibly simple by comparison with no major challenges. Just turn this nobody into a somebody and you'll have it. The next star though is Mario Super Wall Kick, which normally requires Mario and wall kicks. However, there is a helpful enemy called a Spindrift up here. Landing on it boosts you way up into the air and causes you to twirl, which makes you fall very slowly and have much more mid-air control. We can twirl all the way down from the top of the mountain to this top platform we're supposed to reach with wall kicks and grab the star. Which means we can get Mario's super wall kick with no Mario and no wall kicks. Wow, super is a really bland name for a star, don't you think? Anyway, with that, let's move on from this course. 6 stars seems pretty good. Speaking of good things, Jolly Roger Bay teaches us that we can swim normally with the Y button. With that, we have no trouble navigating the underwater sections of the stage. The walls inside the ship are less slippery than you'd expect, so plundering the sunken ship was easy. Can the eel come out to play is exactly the same as usual since it's entirely underwater, and Treasure in the Ocean Cave doesn't have any difficult platforming. After that though, we hit a bit of a wall. Getting blasted the stone pillar seems really difficult. Holes are our enemy, so we can't just jump off the stone pillar like usual, and we can't shoot directly onto the platform the same way you can in the original game. We can get to the ship, but the upper part of the ship that houses the final 2 red coins is just too high to roll out and flip up to, and the cannon won't help us here either. The other 2 stars require Wario and Luigi's special powers, so I can't get them yet. Unfortunately, you can't just swim to the Jet 3 star, so we've got to look elsewhere. Tower of the Wing Cap turned out to be more interesting than I expected. You start out flying in midair, so we have no trouble with the red coin star here, but actually hitting the switch was a little more challenging. You can't get high enough to hit the switch with the rollout flip, so I had to dive bomb straight onto the switch from above to push it. With that, we've unlocked these red blocks, and they might actually be more useful than you'd think. Case in point, I found a use for Balloon Mario immediately after unlocking him. He can't float up without the B button, so you'd think he'd have no use at all, but he has 2 powers we can still use. He bounces slightly off the ground, and he can ground pound while in midair. With both of these powers combined, we can pound this blue coin switch and grab every single one, and that was more than enough to get the 100 coin star of Jolly Roger Bay. Let's hope we don't have to rely on 100 coin stars. With 20 stars under our belt, we finally move on to Bowser in the Dark World. This course is relatively flat and straightforward, so we don't have any real issues until we reach the final section. We can't get up the standard way because the first platform doesn't give us enough space, so we'll just have to abuse these seesaws to make it up. This is a lot harder than it looks. You have to perfectly balance the seesaws between too high to keep your momentum and too low to make it to the next ledge. Once we do get it right, we can get all the way up to the Bowser pipe. But we can also get over here to get the last red coin, and we might as well take the free star while we're here. Okay, that wasn't quite free. In fact, it was actually way harder than I made it sound. And we still have a timed switch star to grab as well. Normally the timer for this switch star is very lenient, but in this run, we have to be perfect to make it on time. If we make any mistakes, we're never gonna make it. Eventually, after numerous tries, I fine-tuned every step to perfection and got the second star of the course. I made sure to give Bowser my complaints for not making this level handicap accessible, and got myself a shiny basement key as compensation. I spent hours on this. As a palate cleanser, I headed out to the courtyard to follow the nice ghosts, and they gave me a star after I beat the red coins out of them. What a nice donation, huh? Then I committed some vandalism to find the Battle Fort, another DS exclusive course, and grab its silver stars to net myself another golden star. I did try entering Big Boo's haunt, but let's just say we'll save this one for later. Trust me, you'll see why soon enough. Just know that I left empty-handed with only the 2 courtyard stars. I finally used the shiny key I got from Bowser to enter the basement, where this toad already knew the rules and gave up his star without much of a fight. Then, I got sent to hell for all the crimes I just committed. The lava land actually isn't that bad. The lava hurts, but it also boosts us up way higher than we can get with a rollout flip, so it makes it easier to get around. There isn't too much to worry about on our way to boil the big bully, and then boil his children afterwards, which nets us 2 stars. The 8-coin puzzle with 15 pieces Bridges is just as easy as usual, and red hot log rolling is only slightly more difficult when you can't jump to keep yourself oriented. The real trouble starts with the volcano. Even getting inside is tricky. We need either a good lava boost or a good boost from this fire shooter to make it in, because the volcano is way too steep to walk up. Inside the volcano, we run into issues not too far in. This ledge near the crusher is too high to grab, and the elevator section has this pole standing in our way, too far away from the nearest ledge for our brilliant R-button strategy to work. And yes, I did try the lava fall. You can't burn yourself on the side of it in this version. Is this the end for this course? Actually, not quite. This crusher isn't completely impossible to stand on. Sure, it moves, and it's incredibly slippery, but that's not enough to stop us. First, we need to stand on the very edge of its activation radius, and then build up a Y charge. By holding the Y button in the DS version, you can build up speed and then sprint from a standstill. Then just wait and pick your moment to get on top of the Cheese Raider platform, and then start showing off your moves. Punching, kicking, breakdancing, they all keep Mario from losing his footing just long enough for the platform to start retracting so we can get on top of the ledge. Okay, I'm surprised that worked. With that, these platforms have some tricky spacing, but nothing our stylish moves can't handle. Not much further up though, we arrive at a set of poles blocking our way. Each one is spaced out just far enough that we can't bridge the gap by dropping off. It looks like it should be barely possible, but I just couldn't seem to get enough distance to grab the next pole. So yes, this does mean that not only can we get close enough to see both volcano stars on screen at the same time, but also that both stars are blocked by evil poles. Never before have I hated Poland with such a passion. After that defeat, I decided to use the shell to grab enough points for the 100-point star and leave for courses that might be a little nicer to us. Shifting Sandland is pretty coarse, rough, and irritating for us. While Leave the Lava Land was full of burning lava that can actually help us get around, this course is instead full of quicksand that just kills you. The main area of the course is actually relatively safe for jumpless travel, though, as long as you can avoid the giant metal boxes. Reaching Klepto for the first star isn't so easy, though, since we don't have enough space for a rollout on top of these pillars. Instead, we have to open up the cannon and use the wing cap to violate his airspace and take the star from the Big Bird's talons. I've never had to take such drastic measures to get that star before. Along the way, I discovered that having your cap stolen is horrible in this challenge, because there's no easy way to reach Klepto to get him to drop it again. I actually had to go back and redo another star to get the cap to spawn in the castle lobby. I'm just gonna be thankful and not ask how Toad found it. As long as you can stay far away from birds trying to steal everything you own, the second star shining atop the pyramid is easy if you just shoot yourself up to it with a wing cap. Just don't miss, otherwise it won't end well for you. Now, it's time to enter the pyramid itself, and this is where things get more difficult. The platforming's a little trickier, and the slow quicksand is terrifying in this challenge. Keeping yourself above the slow sand requires jumping, so all we can do is slowly trudge through hoping to reach solid ground before we drown. I had trouble getting all the way up the pyramid for the third star, but what I was able to do was get on top of this room at the center. Once I did, I just had to drop in with a ledge grab to fight Irock. In hand-to-hand combat between Giant Hands and Mario's hands always win. Snagging the star afterwards was a little trickier. I had to platform on this debris to get the correct angle to grab the ledge and the star. I bet the people who designed this arena never thought that debris would ever be important to anyone. The red coins are all outside the pyramid, so I was able to grab all of them by flying around and exercising a little caution. The rest of the stars here weren't looking so hot, though, so I decided to move on for now. Hazy Mazy KV is a weird level normally, and it's not getting any more normal for this run. The first star is easy. Just find this swimming beast, take its beret, and use your Wario strength to break an entire boulder with your bare hands. Unfortunately, it's a bit tricky to do anything else. I couldn't climb up these stairs to reach the red coins, and the maze exits are way too high to possibly reach. This place could really use some ramps. I even tried to lure one of these snippets down close to the ground so I could eat it, transport it, then spit it out and bounce on it to get more height. I spent about 10 minutes trying to lure it down to the ground, and then it just died when I ate it, so it was all for nothing. But there was still one more star I could easily get. In this part of the video, I'll be explaining exactly what I do to collect Watch for Rolling Rocks in 0 B presses. First, we have to collect this yellow hat to gain Wario strength, then navigate to the rolling rock to break this brick and eat a mushroom to gain even more strength. With all this extra strength, we can start Giant Rock Breaking, or GRB for short. You might be wondering what I'm breaking all these rocks for. After all, I do break rocks for 10 seconds. Once we build up enough broken rocks, this causes the star to appear, and that's Watch for Rolling Rocks done in 0 B presses. Wow, I did not expect this part of the video to become 0.5 minutes long when I started commentating. Anyway, time for things to get dire. Dire Docks is another water level, which is pretty nice for us. Bowser Sub has barely any security, so we have no trouble boarding it for our first star. Good thing, because our challenge might be in jeopardy otherwise. We can also open some sunken treasure and swim through some rings for 2 more stars, but that's all we'll get for now. Next star is titled Pole Jumping for Red Coins, so I don't see much chance of getting that one. And the other stars require help from Luigi and Wario. We might be back later. For now, with 39 stars in hand, things might heat up a little as we enter Bowser's opening. Bowser in the Fire Sea, honestly, really wasn't that bad. Having convenient lava everywhere for lava boosts helped a lot. There's a ton of otherwise insurmountable ledges that require a lava boost, mostly due to cold, cruel poles blocking our way. Somehow, though, the one pole we're actually required to use is close enough that we can grab the ledge from a pole release. Good thing too, otherwise I have no idea what we would have done. The Super Mario 64 A-Button challenge is still stuck on this exact obstacle as I'm writing this script. Anyway, while we can make it to the top, both the Red Coin Star and the Timed Switch Star are on top of this ledge, which is way too high to even consider getting up to. So I just gave Bowser the same treatment his level gave me and took the key to the 3rd floor. This doesn't mean we're going to the 3rd floor just yet, though. I'm still missing quite a few stars, especially in Shifting Sandland, so I headed back there. So you can climb the pyramid with all its complicated platforms and traps without a single jump. Getting up most of it isn't a problem. This bottom area is only scary if you fall into the sinking sand, and climbing up doesn't pose an issue until you reach this part. You're supposed to hang onto or jump on top of this metal mesh, but we can't do either of those things, so we're gonna have to improvise. What I did was slide kick onto this slope. It'll push you out into the sand stream, but you still have some time to perform a rollout flip. Then you have to make sure to land on this paper-thin ledge. Too little momentum and you'll land back in the sand stream and fall to the bottom. Too much momentum and you'll overshoot the ledge and fall to the bottom anyway. Once you're on the tiny ledge, you gotta walk the tightrope up to this spot, fighting the camera the whole time, then do another slide kick across the sand. Now that we're here, how are we gonna climb these tiny ledges? We can get to this part, but there isn't enough space for a regular slide kick. What we can do is exploit this game's weird physics with a technique I call an edge kick. You slide kick on the very edge of a platform, just far enough that the wall can't block your slide kick, and just close enough that the wall still stops you from advancing, while there's also still a floor beneath you. It sounds complicated, but it's actually not that bad, and it lets us get up this step. Then, we just slide kick into the corner, where 2 walls intersect and don't stop us from rolling out to climb the ledge. Once we're past that, it's much of the same. Well timed to roll out flips to get up these annoying platforms, pull releases to grab ledges, until we run into another problem. The start platform is just barely too high to grab from a rollout. At first, I thought this might be insurmountable, but then I found out that you can get onto this tiny ledge on the side, and it's stable enough to stand on without sliding off. It's really easy to mess up and fall back down to the bottom, and this climb takes a few minutes even if you don't make any mistakes on the way up. But with enough persistence and good timing, I was able to time a rollout from this tiny railing to grab the ledge and the star. It felt really good once I finally pulled it off. This isn't the only star I didn't get, though. The 100 coin star was also on the table. We can steal quite a few coins from outside of the pyramid, but it's not quite enough for 100, so we're going to need to finish the job inside. The inside of the pyramid doesn't have that many coins though. Most of them are locked behind an evil blue switch. Why is it evil? Because it chose to hide itself away in a corner where we have no chance to reach it with Balloon Mario before the power wears off. How are we gonna teach it a lesson? Why, of course, by abusing the game's weird physics even harder. There's a box nearby, and we need to get it on top of the switch. Then, we get on top of the switch, and here's the hard part. Walk off the side of the switch while carrying the box, and the instant your feet aren't on the ground, do a ground pound and hope the box pushes you back far enough to hit the switch. Trust me, this is way harder than it looks. Your timing has to be absolutely perfect, and you can't just mash R because that'll make you crouch and drop the box. Once we punish this blue switch for its sins, we can grab the blue coins we need and grab our 100 coin star. I think we definitely earned that one, didn't we? The rest of the stars here are locked behind a Wario mission, so now we can finally move on to the third floor with a clear mind. Now that we're on the third floor, we have a whole bunch of new courses to choose from. First, I robbed this toad because I gotta get stars somehow. Karma immediately struck though as I entered the next course. Tiny Huge Island is a course we can get 0 stars in. When we enter the tiny painting, we're stuck in this area with impassable gaps and water we can't escape without jumping. And we can't get into the huge painting because it's just too high up to reach. That was disappointing because this is a course I really liked and I wanted to see how much of it I could actually do. If I could get into the huge version, I'm sure I could have gotten at least 1 star. Hopefully we don't need any stars. Next one I tried was Tall and Tall Mountain. I was able to climb the other tall courses, so this one should be fine, right? Well, it's probably possible to cross these open gaps, but it would be very tricky. Good thing they put this random wind current here to carry me up instead. I have no idea why this is here, but I'm very grateful. This gap was a little tricky to cross, but the real problem is over here. This one's way too long for you to possibly cross, so we can't climb up the entire mountain. That locks us out of several stars already. We can't even get the slide star because it's just a little further up the mountain than what we can reach. So what can we actually get? Well, we can easily get above the red coin section and grab 3 of them while descending, but the 4th one was a little trickier because it's hiding on a tiny enclosed ledge. The method I used to get it was to point the camera in a specific direction, build up a Y charge, sprint, and immediately slide kick into this corner. We carried into the corner, then we gained lots of backward speed for the slope, which lets us get into just the right position and angle to recover, grab the ledge, and take the 4th coin. After that, we still have these scary shrooms. They really are scary when you can't jump, but after a lot of tries, I was able to grab all 8 red coins and fall onto the star from above. Okay, that was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Now, I was forced to commit the greatest sin in this game's history. I actually had to get last the Lonely Mushroom by using the cannon. I know, it's horrifying, but sometimes you have to stoop pretty low to complete challenges like this. I hadn't done the cannon method in so long that it actually took several tries to get the perfect shot and grab the star. Once we're done with that, we're finished with this course. Not being able to make it higher up the mountain really killed our momentum here. There are probably a couple of comments down below already talking about Hoot the Owl, his ability to carry us high into the air, and how they added him to this course in the DS version. I appreciate the advice, but we have to hold the jump button for him to carry us, so that's not allowed. Now that I mentioned it though, comments about it anyway. After all, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Speaking of things that are good for the YouTube algorithm, tons of people talk about the negative emotional aura of Wet Dry Work. Personally, I never really felt that way because it's actually one of my favorite courses. It's also nicer than you'd think to our paralyzed protagonists. Although we're stuck with the lowest initial water level, the first star is dead simple to get by using this form. It's always been hilarious to me how many alternative ways there are to get this star. The second star was a little harder. To even get onto the first ledge up, I had to push this box over to use it as a step stool. The heave-hos are able to launch me up to the top floor, but I soon found a new problem. You can't grab onto the edge of this wooden beam. Maybe it's too thin? I have no idea, but it made things a lot more complicated. To get onto it, we need to hope that Chuckya throws us onto it or position the Heave-Ho in a specific spot
How
to
can I hear
launch us
thunderstorms from all the way
onto
over
it.
here?
Somehow, by pure dumb luck, I managed to get launched up, and then missed the roll-on flip across the last gap. Turns out I was approaching this all wrong. All I really had to do was open this cannon and nail a shot straight towards the star on my first try. The rest of the stars here seem daunting, so let's head somewhere else and walk off for a while. Snowman's Land makes for a very interesting course to navigate because it's very flat, but still has a few difficult ledges to climb. Nothing stops us from melting the ice fully in ice water. I never understood that. We can also use a spin drift to twirl over the freezing pond and grab this star relatively easily. Yoshi's ice sculpture is a slightly changed star from the original game, and it made for a challenging climb. We have to carry a flame in Yoshi's mouth and climb these ice block pillars until we can melt the block with the star in it. We have to be careful that we don't press A by mistake and breathe fire too early because we need all of these platforms intact. At first I thought this might be impossible, but the ice blocks each just have barely enough space for a perfectly timed rollout flip if you start your slide kick as early as possible. It was a little tricky, but I was able to chisel the star out of the ice. Just don't ask me what this sculpture was supposed to represent. There was one major obstacle standing in the way of further progress in this stage. Even if we can get up to it, we can't grab the ledge on top of the ice block cannon, so we need to find a way around it. The easiest way I found was to use one of these spin drifts near the start point of the course to bounce right over to the other side, landing right above the ice block cannon.
I like
Then
that
you
sound
need
a
to
lot.
find
Super
just the
creepy.
right angle to flip onto this ledge.
I'm pretty sure the
use
warden
this
makes
penguin
that
as a
noise,
shield,
too.
and take a dive in a specific spot to enter the igloo. What, you didn't think we'd get on top of the snowman's head with just a kickflip, did you? I wouldn't blame you if you completely forgot, since you never need to use it for anything at all, but there is a usable cannon in Snowman's Land. That's what we needed to get into the igloo for. The Baba Buddy who opens the cannon is hiding inside. There's also an escapable freezing death water inside, but death is no major obstacle for us. Once we open up the cannon, we can skip the entire process of climbing and just shoot our way up to the snowman's head to steal his star. And that makes 50, which is enough to access the third floor. It probably doesn't seem important yet, but trust me, it will be soon enough. 50 isn't quite enough for the endless stairs, so let's start revisiting some courses. First, let's grab all the stars we're missing from Bob-omb Battlefield. With the wing cap power, we can easily get Mario wings to the sky by flying through these coin rings, and the 8 red coins are even easier. The hard part comes with freeing this chain chomp. The only way to ground pound the post to free him is to take to the air and ground pound it from above. Hitting such a small target while flying at high speed is actually pretty tricky. Eventually, though, we manage it and take our just reward. Once we grab the 100-point star, the course is now 100% complete, which adds 4 stars to our total. If this seems disjointed, then sorry, this is just the order I got these stars in. Back up on the second floor, Wet Dry World has a lot more secrets in store. 5 of them, actually. The first 2 secrets are no problem, since all you have to do is push boxes. The other 3 secrets were what worried me, since they're all inside hard-to-reach blocks. The solution turned out to be Balloon Mario. With his incredible floating powers, he can reach this block containing the 3rd secret and pound it from above. He can even gain momentum by bouncing off the invisible wall on the edge of the course to reach this mesh platform and the block containing the 4th secret. This doesn't mean the entire problem is solved, though, since we still have block number 5 to go, all the way down here. It's too far away and too low to use Balloon Mario, since his time limit is too strict, and it's too high to kickflip up to from the ground level. What are we gonna do, then? Well, do you remember that warp we used to get the first star? The warp takes us here, which is close enough to the block that we could just fall onto it from above. Problem is, I can't actually see the block from this platform. It's too low to appear in the zoomed-out camera view, and I can't look far enough down in the close-up cam. That didn't stop me from repeatedly throwing myself off this ledge, counting the columns of bricks on the wall to aim, until I hit my target. Then I just had to get to the dock where the star spawned. It's way too high to reach with a roll-on flip, and too far away to float to with Balloon Mario, so I raised the water level high enough to just swim to it. I knew that water level mechanic would come in handy. Next up, we have an express elevator to catch. I knew this one was going to be tricky since it involves speed and platforming. When we touch the elevator, it drops down, and then rises back up after a few seconds. I already knew the elevator doesn't drop down to ground level, so I'm going to need to find another way to get onto it. Swimming up onto the platform might be an option, but you move slower in water. So I have to find the perfect balance that won't slow me down too much, while still giving me enough water height to get on top of the elevator. I could have just increased the water level and swam to this water switch, but instead I took the cool path of barely reaching this platform with Balloon Mario and edge kicking up these platforms. Sometimes the hard and stupid way is more fun. Setting the water level is just the first step, though. We still need to actually swim onto the elevator within the time limit. We've got to perfect our movement and swimming as much as possible if we want any chance of making it. Touch the elevator, fall off the ledge, immediately ground pound so we can fall faster, turn around and swim under the elevator so it pushes us downwards, then point and swim with perfect accuracy. It may not have been the hardest star we've tackled, but I genuinely had to think about how to get this one. Next stars on the list are down in the flooded town, but there's no way we can make any progress there. This place very much expects you to jump, and there's no easy ways around it like with the above area. In this hellish place, heave-hos don't exist, and there are only 2 water switches. One that drops the water level to its absolute minimum, and one I can't even reach. Even the almighty Balloon Mario can't help us here. So, what are we gonna do? Well, when I laid out the rules, I didn't bang glitches, so it's time for minor programming errors to help us out. In most games, objects don't get rendered when the camera can't see them to save on performance. No point in rendering stuff the player can't see, after all. In this game, it also disables certain aspects of those objects, like their collision and AI. These blocks are a good example. When you can't see them, they don't exist. Now comes the last part of the puzzle. If you're right next to a wall, you can force the camera through the wall with the close-up cam. If you exit the close-up cam right as the camera enters the wall, it'll get stuck inside for a short time, unable to see anything. Do this while standing on top of a block, and you can fall through and end up inside the block, where you can punch to push yourself out of bounds. This is known as a block clip. Once we're out of bounds, we have to be careful. There's plenty of things that can go wrong, ranging from falling out of the stage entirely and dying to somehow missing the water and breaking our back in the tunnel. No points for guessing if you can get back out. Once we're properly in the water, we discover something interesting. The town isn't even loaded in. If you're swimming through the tunnel like a good boy, it's supposed to unload the upper area and then load the town and all its objects while you're swimming through it. Don't worry, we can break this rule too. We just have to swim close enough to the tunnel to touch the invisible loading zone to get the town to appear, while being careful not to get too close and pop back in bounds. By the way, don't try to explore too far. Even though the town is invisible and unloaded, its collision still exists, and you can get trapped inside the Phantom Town if you get too close. Spooky. Once you learn how to swim outside the bounds of reality, you can load the town while staying out of bounds, and there's one star we can easily get to this way. We can swim around the cage to grab this star from behind, completely skipping the need to use Luigi's invisibility power. Boy, breaking the fabric of space and time is exhausting. Grabbing 100 coins really wasn't that bad after that, with the help of all the blocks everywhere and the blue coin switch. With 4 more stars under our belt for a total of 58, it's time to head back to a stage that's been haunting me for a while. Big Boo's Haunt. You might remember me bringing it up earlier and glossing over it. There's a reason for that. I went in here not once, not twice, but 3 times before I left with a single star. What's the reason? Well, busting these ghosts wasn't a problem, it's what came right afterward. These stairs.
What the
I
heck
tried
is
setting
this?
up while they were rising up, but I quickly found out that wasn't happening, since I'd only get 1 try at it before needing to reset the level and hunt down the ghosts again. If I was gonna get up these, I'd have to do it while they were stationary. The first time I entered, I couldn't even get past the first step with such limited space. The second time, I could get up the steps with edge kicking, but couldn't climb the final step. On the 3rd attempt, though, I was determined to find a way to make it all the way up. As you can see, we have very little room to work with. As you might already have realized, bumping into a wall during a slide kick prevents us from flipping out of it. There's also an actual wall, preventing us from edge kicking our way up like we did with the other steps. There is just barely enough room to pull off a slide kick recover if your timing and spacing are perfect, but even that's not quite enough. Grabbing ledges from straight on is very straightforward, but the further away you're facing from the ledge, the more height you'll need to make up for that. This means that not only do we need a perfectly timed and perfectly spaced rollout flip, but it needs to be at the perfect angle too. It was very difficult,
right,
but
my
eventually
lucky
I nailed
direction
the
is
perfect
east.
kickflip and got a gold star for my effort. I lost some of the footage, but this took at least 2 hours of kicking stairs like an idiot until I fumbled my way up. It was a little painful. The second star, on the other hand, is easy. Just head down and kill more ghosts. Literally nothing to it. The third star, once you get up the stairs again, also isn't too bad. You can hit the books to solve the puzzle with punch-punch-kick combos easily. That's also the last thing we're doing here. Why? Well, someone decided to relocate one of the red coins all the way over here for the remake. That would be hard to reach even if we wouldn't have to climb the stairs again every time we fail. And don't even think about trying to get up to the balcony. I think both of these are technically possible with tool assistance, but I wanted to make progress with only my own skill unless I absolutely had to. This also means we can't rescue Luigi, since his level is on the balcony. So I guess this means Luigi's just gonna be locked up forever now. Maybe trying to pick up that free mansion was a bad idea. If only this place had an elevator. After remembering and doing a Silver Star mission in Snowman's Land, which had a couple of tricky placements but nothing impossible, and robbing the last toad in the castle of his most prized possession, things started to look dire, and I got a little desperate. Desperate enough to try to kill the Womp King again, in fact. Destroying him seemed like a good idea, since that would let me unlock the Tower Star as well. Sadly, using the platforms to pound his back hasn't gotten any easier since I tried it the first time. I tried to get clever too, and use the tricks I've learned so far, but they weren't especially effective. I couldn't pull off the walk-off then immediately ground pound strategy without a box, and unfortunately there's no box here anymore. It's been removed from the DS version. Out of all the changes this remake makes to the original game design, I'm still the most confused by this box being removed. I even thought about using the Wing Cap or Balloon Mario to attack, but the only power-up block in this entire stage contains nothing but bombs. I guess he knew my strategy before even I knew my strategy. In hindsight, I don't think these ideas would have been useful even if they did work, but I was getting pretty desperate. I spent 2 hours straight trying to beat him. Not once did I get more than one hit on him per attempt, and his health resets every time the fight does. At that point, I decided I wasn't trying that one again unless I was completely out of options. Snowman's Land still has more stars to check out. Although the main Igloo Star is impossible because we don't have Luigi's powers, there are still red coins inside to grab in the DS version alongside the completely different layout. Even if it looks impossible, we have all the tools we need. You'd think the coins inside the inescapable freezing death water would stop us cold, right? Yoshi's tongue disagrees because its auto-aim is strong enough to snag the underwater coinage from the very edge of these platforms. The rest of the coins are above water, but some of them require bouncing on spindrifts. These are the actually dangerous ones. Twirling makes you fall very slowly, but it's really hard to control your momentum while twirling, and bumping into a wall will send you crashing to the ground, usually into the death water. There are also only a limited number of spindrifts in the room, so we have to use them wisely and carefully. Transporting them in Yoshi's mouth helps to make sure you get the right angle for the dangling coins. 11 attempts later, I was able to get all 8 red coins in 1 life and get back to the star. Then, I remembered there was a star in Womp's Fortress I could actually get. There's so many coins there that you can easily get the 100 coin star, even if you can't reach the blue coin switch. Honestly, I have no idea why I didn't get this earlier.
For
There's
mining
also
diamonds.
the 100 store in Cool
Oops.
Mountain, where you can
I have
get
to watch the
almost all the
video
points you
again,
need
I
just by
suppose.
sliding. Despite its name, this mountain did anything but treat us coldly. It was actually pretty cool, all things considered. Anyway, there's a couple more stars I really can't blame myself for not getting earlier. In Hazy Mazy Cavey, it turns out you can get up to where the red coins are. How? Well, from this platform,
I
if you
hope an
aim
iron
yourself
pickaxe
just
is enough to
right
pick
and
up an
sprint off
enchanting
the
table.
edge, you can reach this platform, climb the pole, and have access to all 8 red coins that way. Now, this is easier said than done. Getting to this red coin platform is deceptively hard, and you only have one shot at this. If you fall, you have to exit the course and try again. To get the red coins from the elevator, you still need to use this anti-gravitational DDR pad to get the rest, but it won't be a problem as long as you bring a character who can break these bricks. So that's 1 star down, but what's the other one? Would you believe me if I said the 100 coin star here was also possible? Requires a very specific route. First, we need to start off as Yoshi. Little known fact about Yoshi's eggs. Not only do they auto-aim at the nearest target, but they'll try to chain hits together if valid targets are nearby, with the egg releasing
What
its
the heck
contents each time.
happened to this
So
tree?
if you make an egg out of something that has multiple coins, like this box, and get it to chain hits together, you can get the coins from that
Hilarious.
box multiple times. Next, we need to grab the Wario cap and repeat the same steps we used for the red coin star. Thankfully, Wario's excess weight doesn't slow him down too much. Then, just run around the entire course, grabbing every single coin we possibly can. I got about 90 coins, then finished it off with a blue coin switch we actually can reach. It was nicer than I thought once I managed to get the red coins in one go. Also, I took damage from the gas while the game was saving the
Oh,
100
just a
coin
wooden
star.
pickaxe will do.
Man, weird challenges like to
Nice.
teach you weird things about the games you love sometimes.
I'll take this too.
There's also Snowman's Land, of course, which has plenty of coins up for grabs. To make things a little easier, I went for the igloo first. There are plenty of coins inside, and I'd rather get the deadliest place out of the way first when going for a 100 star. Once I made it out of the igloo that's bigger on the inside with my life, the rest of the coins were no trouble at all. As you might have already guessed, though, we are almost out of stars we can actually get. We're pretty much out of courses, too. Tiny Huge Island is still a bust, and we can't reach a single one of the courses on the 3rd floor because they're just too high up. So what is there left to do? Are we just stuck so close to our goal? Actually, no. We're not. But to explain why, first we need to talk about the afterlife. Wait,
What?
no, I just need to tell you about heaven and hell portals. This is gonna get complicated, but I'll try my best. First of all, there are several sliding states. Slide kicking, diving, slipping, which is just diving but backwards, and butt sliding. One unique property all of these states share is that with the right conditions, you'll snap down to the nearest floor beneath you. How does the game test for a floor beneath you? It uses a raycast. Basically, it checks straight below you and reports the first floor it finds. But what if it finds no floor at all? This is much easier said than done, since most areas have floors. It also won't work in any area with lava or a death barrier, which further limits the areas you can use this in. However, the 3rd floor of the castle is one area you can use this in. It's even got perfect spots to use this in, since these stairs have glitchy corners where it's possible to trick the game into thinking there's no floor beneath your feet. If you are in a sliding state in an area where the game believes there is no floor beneath you, you'll warp. However, your timing has to be very specific for this to work. If your timing is off, you'll warp to the lowest possible position the DS can measure, and immediately die from being below the stage boundary. Life is kinda cruel sometimes, isn't it?
What
That's
is
called a
that?
down warp. If your timing is right, you'll up warp. That's a down warp with downward momentum, which causes your position to underflow and become the absolute highest position the game can measure instead. Your positioning is also important. Once you've been upwarped, you'll keep traveling forward depending on which sliding state you're in. In order to stop being upwarped to
Not
the
about
top
to
of the
find
stage,
out.
there has to be a certain amount of solid ground beneath you for the game to recognize you should be falling. If that condition is satisfied, you'll stop warping and start falling from the very top of the stage. This is called a heaven portal, and it lets you do many wonderful things. So what's a hell portal? Well, that's what happens if there isn't enough solid ground beneath you. You'll never stop upwarping, stuck in a black abyss until you press A and accept your death. Okay, hopefully I didn't put you guys to sleep right there. In case you want to know more about how this works, there should be a card in the upper right directing you to a video from Josh65536. This is the video I used to learn about how this trick works myself, and it explains this trick in far more detail than I just did. If you're wondering how hard this is to actually pull off, it took me 2 hours to get a heaven portal to work and take me to where I wanted to go. I could use this to skip straight to Bowser in the Sky, but I really wanted to meet my goal of getting 80 stars beforehand. So I tried to land behind the mirror in the Snowman's Land room instead to rescue Wario. Normally, you need Luigi and his special invisibility power to get in there, but there's no need for him when you can break basic laws of physics and reality instead. Once you're there, you have to guess where you are and feel around for a door. Inside, not only do we have another secret star under our belt, but we can head back in and load the room properly, on the wrong side of the mirror. Now it's finally time to head inside Wario's pen. The painting is just barely too high to reach. The painting is just barely too high to reach. It took me this long to be stopped by a painting being 1 centimeter too high. I couldn't believe it. I had to try a few more times before I confirmed that, yes, this painting is too high to get into by the smallest possible amount. We got a star out of this trip, but we weren't able to get Wario this way. He'd let us get several extra stars, but he's just out of our reach. It was certainly worth a shot, though. I was a little demoralized, but I headed back to a star that also deserved another shot. Blasted the stone pillar in Jolly Roger Bay. I had done research and found out this star was
Why the
possible.
heck is this so dark?
I just had to actually pull it off. We have no chance for the straight shot, but what if we fire straight up into the air and try to land right on the platform? This requires a perfect shot, not just to have the right amount of distance, but also to avoid bogging on the inconveniently placed invisible wall. It's really hard to aim so far away from your target. I resorted to moving the cannon as far up as possible, then counting every single tap on the D-pad to move it down. Several concussions
Welcome to
later,
the
I was able to
negative
make the perfect shot
zone.
and bring our total up to 71. But where do we go from here? Using a heaven portal to enter courses would be incredibly difficult, and I didn't feel like I stood much chance in any of the courses I couldn't enter, especially since Tick-Tock Clock and Tiny Huge Island would require another heaven portal to enter every single time. But if I could use a heaven portal to enter those courses, why can't I use a heaven portal to enter the Wario painting from above? It will be very difficult because I need to touch the invisible warp inside the painting from above, but it will be possible. For this, at the request of someone who watched this live, I decided to use a save state to save time. I live streamed this whole run on Twitch, by the way. It would have been entirely possible to do this without it, but it likely saved me hours of time I would have spent repeatedly kicking this one glitchy corner and falling to my death looking for Wario's invisible sweet spot. Do you guys still feel like this is legit? I'd like to hear how you guys feel about it. I recorded this footage quite a while ago. I feel like if I did this now, I wouldn't have used a save state. Anyway, after a lot of tries, I managed to hit the precise spot I needed to fall right into Chief Chili Challenge. This course isn't painless to navigate jumpless, but getting into it was infinitely harder than getting through it. I can tell you that much. Most of the platforming here can be solved with good kickflips and being very cautious on the ice. There is another pond of inescapable icy death water, but I avoided it completely by sheer luck without even realizing the danger I was in. These moving ice platforms are tricky to navigate, but all you need is a little good timing. Chief Chili himself, likely very confused that I got here, couldn't pose much of a threat since all we have to do is punch him off the edge of the platform 3 times. And now we have officially unlocked Wario without unlocking Luigi first. He may not be able to jump. I mean, look at him, does he look like he's jumped recently? But he should open up a few more stars to us. First, we can grab the Jetstream star in Jolly Roger Bay.
That generates sin is more than double normally. There is so much copper on the cave walls, floor, and roof that you can basically get enough of it to last you forever. And now for the one that everyone's been waiting for, and that is what are the best levels to mine diamond at. Well, diamond starts generating in the normal stone layers that you're enabled to get yourself some stone diamond ore still, as of course if it didn't generate up here, that would be an impossible ore to get. So that starts at level 16, and it's very little right there, but it's a triangular distribution, giving you the most at the bottom of the world. But of course with the bedrock, you wouldn't want to mine right on top of that, or you'd just be going around it, or you'd be having ores be interrupted. So you want to mine that at level negative 58 or 57, the exact same as redstone. Again, just the reason why you might want to do negative 57 is so if you see here, you'd be mining up here at negative 58, but sometimes what could happen is a diamond ore could generate beneath your feet. You'll see it, but it also kind of generates around the bedrock. So this would have been diamond, but it's bedrock. Whereas let's say you're mining up here and you see a diamond ore, it very, very rarely will actually go into the bedrock, as it cannot really get low enough to touch these occasional bedrocks that go at level negative 60, but it doesn't matter too much either way. And ideally negative 58 is your best level to mine diamonds at. Now, although this is technically the best place to mine diamonds at, and strip mining diamonds with a super fast pickaxe can be a pretty good idea. You don't always have an amazing pickaxe or a great way of mining it, and so what I would suggest doing if you want the fastest way of getting diamonds is to get them through diamond fossils or through underwater caving. Of course, strip mining is your only real good long-term solution, but for short-term quick diamonds, both of those work well, and I will outline how to do those later. And now, although you do know the best level to mine diamonds at, don't click away because there's some very important mining strategies coming right up, including how to moss mine, how to mine in the deep dark biome in 1.19, which is completely vital to getting all the ores you want to get effectively. You may wonder, what are the best levels to mine at for a good mix of everything? So there's 2 different layers you want to mine at generally. You could pick other ones, but for now what I would suggest is level 8. So of course this would be basically right on top of the deep slate layer. You'd be mining right here. The reason for level 8 is that it's one of the only levels in the entire game where every single ore can generate there. As you can see on the chart, you can just get every single ore here, including even the deep slate ores. However, you do not mine any of the deep slate, so it's still a very quick way of mining, and it's just a great way of getting all the different odds and ends of ores you may want. But it is kind of slow, so if you want to specialize on redstone and diamonds with a side of gold and iron, then the level you want to mine at is negative 57 or negative 58, with the differences of course being mentioned as I did earlier, with negative 58 having slightly more materials, but negative 57 having less of them being interrupted by the bedrock. And so mining at this level, you will get yourself quite a bit of diamonds and redstone. Of course, the only problem with this is that deep slate does take a long time to mine, and it may feel like ages between all the different types of ores you get. But overall, if you do want your most assured way of getting all those different types of valuable items, you do want to mine at negative 58 as well as level 8. So there's a lot of different methods to actually mining now that you know what layers to mine at. And the first one, which is rather simple but is quite important to know, is the most effective way of strip mining, also known as branch mining. And so basically when you strip mine, what you want to do is you sort of want to make a C shape, as I call it. So that's basically one tunnel. And then off that there's a tunnel that's going sideways, and after that sideways tunnel you go back.
Negative 54, alright.
First, we can grab the Jetstream star in Jolly Roger Bay.
I'll end the
This
video
one
when I
was
get my
slightly
first
more
diamond.
complicated than you'd expect. Metal Wario can't slime kick or dive underwater, and will be pushed away from the star if we try to wait underneath it, so we'll have to improvise. Even though underwater momentum physics will fight us pretty hard, it is possible to have Metal Wario land right on top of the star to get it that way. Not too hard once I adapted to the underwater control. Next up is Cool Cool Mountain, where we can finally use Wario's incredible weight to shatter the ice and open up the Switch Star. Making it in time requires some risky maneuvers, but it's far from impossible. Big Boo's Haunt has a star switch hidden underneath black bricks, which Wario can't break. The timer for this one is a lot more strict, but Wario can still make it with only a second to spare. Next, we can backtrack to Shifting Sandland for another star switch blocked by black bricks. Easy to get in time if you just use the teleporter. Getting that also opens up the last star of Shifting Sandland, which requires us to get silver stars inside the pyramid. Getting up the pyramid's as tricky as ever, but we don't have any problems grabbing them once we do. There's even something opened up in Dire Dire Docks. A new star switch was added, once again requiring Wario to break black bricks and beat an easy timer. You'd think we could get the Jetstream star in this course as well, but I couldn't get Wario over to the power-up block. It's blocked by these metal fences we can't get on top of, and I couldn't find any way around them. I'm definitely not climbing this brick staircase with a super tight time limit using Wario, that's for sure. If only he knew how to jump. Okay, we're up to 77 stars and just about out of options. What else can we do? What other stars are even available? Here's one I bet you guys forgot, and that I forgot about too until now. In this remake, rabbits show up sometimes, handing out keys to unlock minigames when you catch them. But very rarely, in place of a rabbit you've already caught, you'll find a glowing white rabbit instead that doesn't have a key. Cheapskate. Instead, the game tells you how many white rabbits you have left to catch. It took a little time and a little research on what makes them spawn, but I was able to catch all 8 and get a special key. This opens the white carpet door in the character select area, which doesn't lead to our boy Waluigi, but it does lead to a secret star. I would have preferred Waluigi, but a star is a star. Alright, 78 stars. Only 2 more. The best option left was Wing Mario over the rainbow. I can get here easily with a heaven portal, and there's 2 stars I can get here. Simple, right? By this point, I've practiced enough with this glitch that it took me a lot less than 2 hours to hit my mark. Now that we're inside though, what are we supposed to do? We can't make it to any of the platforms with just a roll-out flip, and we can't make use of the wing cap without a cannon to help us. Thankfully, the solution is very simple. We just need to enter the level as Yoshi, hit the power block to make a flower appear, and then use the Mario cap to grab it as Mario and float over to this platform. Normally that block only spawns feathers for Mario, but it still spawns flowers for everyone else. Mario saves the day once again. We really should be thankful for his presence. Now that we're here, we can use this Wario cap and break this black brick for an easy star. Just 1 left. With only 1 left, I tried to grab the red coins, but I ended up bonking and getting thrown down from heaven. I started my ritual of kicking the glitchy corner, hoping to get the right timing to try again, when I remembered 1 star I completely forgot about this whole time.
Here.
The other cap stages are still in this remake.
Oh my gosh.
We can't get into Vanish Cap under the moat because we can't pound these pillars, but I
There's
completely
2
forgot
ancient
about the
cities
Metal
right
Cap
next to
course
each other.
behind the waterfall.
Damn.
Hidden within Hazy Mazy Cavey, this place has 2 stars. One that we can't get because we need to float upwards with Balloon Mario, and the original one that just requires the red coins. With Wario's metal power, we can grab the underwater coins, and the final star we need for the big 8-0. That is officially an optional challenge completed. I don't think we're going to find an optional challenge to top that one for a very long time. With the required 80 stars, we can head up the endless stairs the normal way to confront Bowser. He's the one who redesigned that igloo to be filled with inescapable deadly water. He's the one who made those nearly impossible stairs in Big Boo's Haunt that haunted me for so long. And worst of all, he's the one who moved that Wario painting up by 1 centimeter so we couldn't flip inside. I think it's time to give him the rest of our complaints, isn't it? Of course he won't make it so easy. He knows our weaknesses front to back by this point. The first part of the stage isn't so bad. In fact, we can even get this time restore, bringing our total up to 81. Nice. Not long after that, though, is when we hit a wall. This wall, to be exact, which is too high to climb, with no nearby objects to help, and we can't get up from this rotating elevator either. It doesn't take long to figure out that he's finally hit our true weakness. Vertical heights too high for our rollout flip with nothing to help us past. No objects, no weirdly climbable slopes, and no alternate paths. Have we really run into a truly impassable wall? Alright, you know the drill by now. There is something we can do. First, we need to throw Mario out the door. He's not going to be of any use to us here. You know who will? Yoshi. Bowser knew that though, so you can't legitimately enter this level with anyone besides Mario. Good thing the top of the stairs is just a heaven portal away. This is why getting 80 stars was an optional objective, by the way. I could have done this as soon as I had 50 stars to my name. Along the way, I somehow ended up in Wet Dry World? Well, at least I found a way to get the highest water level jumpless. We do have to feel around to get into the Bowser opening, but it's nothing we're not familiar with. Once we're in, we have to abuse Yoshi's tongue to its fullest. The only objects in this part of the stage that could possibly be useful are Goombas, but we're gonna make them work like you've never seen before. This next part is the most difficult thing I had to do throughout this entire run, by far. And I'd like to give credit to the Jumpless/B-Button Challenge community because I never would have thought of this. You might already know that Goombas give you a small bounce when you land on them. It's not the kind of thing you'd think about in normal play, but you can imagine how useful that might be. But those Goombas are way too far away to actually be useful, right? That's where Yoshi comes in. He can eat a Goomba, spit it out, and then bounce on it afterwards. That's still not a distance to get anywhere yet. We need to escort this Goomba all the way over to where it needs to be by repeatedly eating it and spitting it back out. It's gross, but necessary. It's also much, much easier said than done, because so many things can go wrong. Once you spit the Goomba out, it's incredibly fragile. If you touch it, it will immediately die. If it touches another enemy, it dies. If it's out of Yoshi's mouth for more than 3 seconds, sayonara. And if it's in Yoshi's mouth for too long, he'll turn it into an egg, and we can't use it anymore. Not to mention, if you spit it off the edge of the stage, it will never be seen again. With all this in mind, it's hard to even get it past this rotating platform. This amp keeps circling the platform, ready to hit the Goomba at the worst possible time, and we have gaps to cross too. Remember, we can't slide kick with the Goomba in our mouth. Trying to crouch will cause Yoshi to immediately swallow whatever's in his mouth. Unless it's fire. I guess even Yoshi has standards. After spitting the Goomba a ways further, we encounter this seesaw platform. Now I have to talk about a little more technical stuff. Don't worry, this is the last time. Most objects in this game have an activation radius. If you're not inside it, some parts of the object will deactivate. For platforms like this seesaw, the collision also deactivates. Because of that, if we try to spit the Goomba right onto it, the Goomba will fall through because we're not within the radius. The only way to solve this problem is to build up a Y charge, press a direction on the D-pad to start running, spit out the Goomba, and immediately slide kick to cross the gap and enter the activation radius before the Goomba falls through, while also changing your direction to make sure you don't touch the Goomba along the way. Can you believe that's even harder than it sounds? This was also when I started using save states for this stage. I built up a bunch of lives to try to do this legitimately, but I resorted to save states once I was out of lives. Honestly, I would have been able to get up to this point without them, but everything past this point? No way. Mostly because our Goomba escort is not over yet. If we can get the Goomba onto the rotating elevator platforms, we might be able to bounce off it and reach the higher ledge. Problem is, we have to get it onto the elevator platforms from this seesaw. Even with save states, this was an absolute nightmare to do. Every single thing about your execution must be perfect in every way. Your timing must be perfect. The seesaw's position must be perfect. Your position must be perfect. The rotating platform's position must also be perfect. You have to execute your slide kick and roll-out flip perfectly to follow the Goomba, and a blue moon has to happen on Friday the 13th. Well, maybe not that last part. If you get a single thing wrong, you'll lose the Goomba. And if I wasn't using save states, I'd have to start this entire process over from the beginning. Needless to say, I lost track of how many tries this took me. Either the Goomba would have too much speed and escape from me, not enough speed so it didn't make it to the platforms, not enough height so it also didn't make it to the platforms, or I'd end up making a mistake with my inputs. But after literally hundreds of tries, I managed to go fast enough for the Goomba to reach the platforms and not fall through, but slow enough that I was able to swallow the Goomba again before it bounced out of my reach. Once you've gotten that far, you just have to spin it into the corner of the rotating platform and time your kickflip well enough to bounce up to the ledge. Honestly, I'm not sure what I did right. Several times I got up, but couldn't grab the ledge because I was facing away. But this time, somehow, Yoshi changed direction in mid-air to grab the ledge. I don't even know how that works. All I know is I'm taking it. Once we finish our dinner date with our Goomba friend, we have a little breather. The next section doesn't pose any major problems for once. It's actually pretty peaceful until we make it up to this pole. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but turns out there is a way past this as well. When you release a pole with the R button, you get a little bit of the momentum you were climbing the pole with if you were still moving up when you let go. It's pretty tight, but a near-perfect pole release can get you up here safe and sound. I wonder if I could have gotten one of the volcano stars in Lethal Lava Lane with this technique. Next gap is really scary. You have to make it to the pole, then let go, and hope Yoshi successfully grabs the ledge. Yoshi's not good at grabbing moving ledges, but it does work eventually. Once you're past this one final set of elevator platforms, you have one final obstacle in your way. The final pipe is on top of this irritating set of ledges. You can get up onto the ledges, but grabbing the edge of the pipe doesn't seem possible. Good thing there are some convenient Goomba trampolines right here. We do have to spit them into the perfect spot and nail our timing, but we can bounce our way up to the final pipe that way and finally meet Bowser face to face. Bowser doesn't have any cruel tricks left to pull on us now that we're fighting him one-on-one. We made it past the most relentless gauntlet he can possibly throw at us, so the worst thing he can throw at us now is shockwaves that are mildly tricky to dodge. His fire breath's even nice enough to give us a Mario cap to fight him with. Compared to the stage we just went through, throwing Bowser around felt like pure stress relief. In no time at all, we give him our final thoughts on what he just put us through and send him packing for good. Then we grab this giant star that counts as 0 stars. Peach finally comes out of the window, and credits roll. This challenge is officially complete. And we even managed one of our optional objectives, although we couldn't find a way to free Luigi in the end. I guess King Boo's gonna have his way with Luigi forever. Alright, I had another outro written, but I just wanted to thank anyone who watched this far from the bottom of my heart. This is the longest video I've made after all, and it's been the most difficult challenge so far in terms of the actual challenge itself, and the process of turning it into a video. Don't worry, I've got ideas for future videos, and they'll definitely come out faster than this one. Maybe even another Undertale run inspired by a comment I received. My favorite part of the run was probably Wet Dry Rolled and the different strategies I had to use for each star, but there were plenty of contenders for that spot. Someday I'll see if I can find a challenge that tops this one. Hopefully, with your guys' help, I'll manage it. If you actually watched this far, you're probably a fan, so I'll plug some stuff here. I have a Twitter that I haven't used for a while. It's a little dusty, but hey, I should try using it more often. And I also have a Discord server where I'm a little more active. And you can find links to both of those in the video description. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Kickflip into the cards to see more weird challenges like this, and throw Bowser into the subscribe button if you want to keep up with whatever weird things I end up doing next. Until then, I'll see you guys next time on the Reptile Rumble.
In addition, movement skills like shove are much less available. Kanto is a high-cost inheritable skill, not something available to mounted units by default like many other home console FE games. Reposition isn't inheritable until halfway through the game, and rescue dropping isn't in the game at all as far as I know. There is a smash mechanics where certain weapons can move an enemy back one space after the enemy attacks first, but I went through the whole game without feeling the need to use it. And despite what may be some Fire Emblem fans' greatest desire, in this game you cannot smash your teammates, only the enemies. There are a few engaged techniques for additional movement, like Warp Ragnarok, or Goddess Dance, or Sigurd being Sigurd, but those are more limited to only a few times per chapter. The next immediately noticeable change is how it handles the weapon triangle. Remember how in most FE games, weapon triangle would slightly affect hit rate and maybe like 1 point of damage? Well, in Engage, they went full-on balls to backboard on the weapon triangle. If you initiate combat with weapon triangle advantage and hit, you will break the enemy, which causes them to drop their weapon. This is medieval times, they didn't have Flex Seal. And when this happens, they can't counterattack during the rest of that combat, and can't counterattack the next unit who attacks them. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. It makes for interesting strategy, especially since the enemy can do it back to you. But there were definitely bosses that I could only be using the break mechanic than dogpiling. But I think I would prefer it not to come back, at least not in its current form. This feels like it should be like a special attack, like a combat art or something. Not something that automatically happens every single time you attack, you know? Like in Fates and Echoes, weapon durability is gone. This way you can refine and engrave multiple jacked up killing edges and just use those the whole game. Some may call this cheesing through the game. I call it using the tools presented to everyone to turn half my army into FE6 Rutger. Pro tip, I didn't figure this out until like chapter 20, but if you forge a Slim Lance into an Iron Lance into a Killer Lance, it'll be lighter weight and still have the Slim Lance avoid bonus. Another new-ish mechanic is chain attacks. Certain classes can do an additional mini attack if they're within range of the enemy. It's sort of like the pair-up from Fates, except it actually feels sort of balanced here, since it's a fixed hit rate and damage. Even if your attack would normally do 0 damage, damage, you can still chain attack and do some damage. The enemies can do it back to you, so it makes both dodge tanking and face tanking harder, especially when there are multiple enemies around you. Tamara the tank engine usually takes 0 damage from these axe chucking fools. In fact, every enemy here does 0 damage to her, but this chip damage for enemy units adds up quick, since they can do it over and over, multiple times one turn, multiple attempts per each attack. Even if non-backup units are attacking her, the backup units still get a chance for extra fixed damage regardless of her defense, and she'll almost die before she can use Great Aether at the start of her next turn. Jesus Christ! Speaking of, the biggest new mechanic, Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem loves to steal mechanics from Persona. Three Houses hijack the calendar system, sport conversations and paralogs are basically watered-down confidants, and Engage just takes Personas wholesale. But here, the Personas are main characters from every previous Fire Emblem game. Ahem! The new Engage mechanic will afford you a Path of Radiance to defeat the Shadow Dragon. After awakening new emblems in the story, you fight alongside them, level them up, and unlock the mystery of the emblem. They reside within rings embedded with sacred stones, and you can see the hero from each game, showing the series' genealogy of Holy War. You can see the echoes, Shadows of Valentia, of abilities and mechanics from the previous games. When you engage with an emblem through a flashy, radiant dawn, your character digivolves into a sci-fi looking angel dude with jet engines on their back. I don't know how this relates to Fire Emblem, but you engage for 3 turns. 3 houses. Engaging emblems allows your character to use a temporary Blade of Light, like a Blazing Blade or even the Binding Blade. If you're having trouble with the game, you're probably not engaging enough. You need to engage more. The Fates may say it is your birthright to lose the battle, but by engaging more often, your newfound power will achieve you a revelation to help you in your conquest of the enemy. You can do Gaiden chapters to further increase the bond threshold and reveal a new mystery of the emblem. There's even a side chapter that references Gracia 776.
Bruh.
Engage attacks also give you access to once per engage special moves that are really useful and you should spam. In Leaf's side chapter that most players would have warp skipped in the original game, he has a posse of 7 mage knights with 3 ranged tomes that chase you down. However, at one point they all line up like bowling pins, so Sigurd's Stampede Overdrive took out like 5 of them in a single attack. The engage mechanic is really cool. As someone who's familiar with all of Fire Emblem, it was cool seeing all the abilities and weapons referenced in previous games. And it was easy for me to remember what skills each character grants. Lynn's doubles are referenced to a critical hit animation. Sigurd's big horsey movement are referenced to his big maps with big horsey movement. I would make a video on all these references, but I'm pretty sure other more knowledgeable people are already working on it. However, I've talked to a few of my friends who have not played very many FE games, and for them it was kind of difficult remembering who each emblem is and what skills each one has. Even many people who did play 3 houses didn't know about the Dance of the Gods Battalion, so they were confused by Violet's special ability. There's very little story integration to help newer players remember who everyone is and what all their abilities do. More on that later. You can inherit skills from other emblems to permanently equip them, but strap on your cheating Nikes and get ready for some goddamn hurdles, because Fire Emblem Engage is a UX nightmare. Say I want to learn the skill Speed +1. Okay, first I have to go to the Somniel, your home base, load screen. Then I need to go to the Ring Chamber to see how much SP each skill costs to learn, load screen. Then I need to either remember or write down who should train with who and how much, since I can't see these quantities anywhere else. Then I need to go into the arena, load screen. Now I need to walk forward. This is stupid. Then I need to watch my character fight the corresponding emblem, only half of which is skippable. If I need to go to a high bond level, I'll need to stop and watch bond conversation where the characters say nothing important, then do the fight again. Oops, I ran out of friendship crystals. I need to load screen, go to the achievement board and collect more. Load screen, get back. Watch characters fight some more. Okay, fast travel back to the ring chamber. Load screen. Okay, now I can go to the ring menu and spend SP, assuming I have enough, to learn the skill. Then close the ring menu, open up the inventory menu, go to the skill sub menu, and equip the skill. All of that, now my guy has one more point in speed. In other FB games, learn the skill for leveling up, pick the skill, equip it. All these segmented areas just to access menus. Imagine if McDonald's drive-thru was like this. It's a similar problem that 3 houses had, where certain info is available on different screens but not others. But in Engage, a lot of this info is separated by load screen, or at the very least closing one menu and opening another, and constantly having to hop between them. There's even minor inconveniences that add up across an entire playthrough into huge annoyances. In battle, I move my guy to attack, but then why is Engage always the default option above attack in the pause menu? Why is Emblem Ring always the first option above inventory? Why is the X button not menu? In a console game with face buttons, plus button should not be the menu. X button should be menu. Come on, y'all! Speaking of skills, you won't get to equip very many. In Fates and 3 houses, characters have the personal personal skill, and 5 skill slots. In Engage, characters have their 1 personal skill, 2 choosable skill slots, and 1 promoted class skill after they reach level 5 in an upper class, but you can't transfer skills between classes like you could in Awakening Fates and 3 Houses. You need SP to inherit skills from emblem rings, but it's a completely redundant quantity, since you already need to either spend time fighting or friendship crystals to have a skill be inheritable in the first place. All SP does is limit the player's customization options and leave less room to experiment, since your dudes will constantly be in an SP deficit unless you grind levels. You won't be able to get more than like 4 or 5 skills across the entire playthrough. If the game insists on having SP, then maybe a system where fighting in actual battles with the emblem would lower the SP cost to inherit, since a unit would be more familiar with that emblem's skills. You'll have more skills by equipping an emblem ring, but the downside to this is that you only obtain emblem rings from the story, and for the first 2/3 of the games, you will not have more than 6 emblem rings, unless you bought the Day 1 DLC, which I did not do. There are replacement shitty rings that you can get from this stupid-ass gacha game system that doesn't even be in the fucking game at all. They are way worse than emblem rings, and only some of the rarest rings give you 1 ability. I've heard that there are some good exclusive skills you can get from the rarest dollar store rings, but the best skill I got was Renewal from Deirdre's S-rank ring. You won't have all 12 good rings until the last 4 chapters of this 26-chapter game, but when you do, the customization is great. But for the first 2/3, some of your units will be straight up worse. I love all my units equally. I just love some of them equally-er. I think it may have been better if the clearance aisle rings gave 1 skill no matter what rank ring it is. They just have different tiers for that ability, sort of like the skills in Fire Emblem Heroes. Or just don't have a rank system at all. And if you get duplicate rings, you can merge them and power them up or whatever. You can already merge lower rank rings into upper rank ones, but I'm not spending 10,000 friendship crystals to get an S rank ring. That's too much! Across FE history, the level of character customization has slid between chess piece, being every character has their specific role and only fills that niche, and customizable RPG party member, the ability to build various characters in different ways. There's no correct side to be on, it's just how things have changed over time. The first 7 games, there was some customization, like FE4 and 5 had skills, but those skills couldn't really be transferred between characters, so these games are generally more on the chess piece side. 8 introduced branching class promotions, 9 and 10 had skill capacity and learnable skills, and in 10 you could transfer those skills to a different character. 11 and 12 you could pretty much freely change into any class, but each class still had specific function. 13 and 14 were much more on the RPG party member side, as well as skill transferring and inheritance and everything. 15 was a remake that did add some stuff, but ultimately back to the chess piece side. 16 was much more on the party member side with its skills and crests and everything. And 17, Engage, starts more on the chess piece side with extremely limited customization and almost zero reclassing early in the game, and gradually slides over to the RPG side, especially as you unlock more emblems to equip and gain more SP to inherit skills. Hang on, I took so long to finish this video that a month after I beat the game, 3 patches later, you no longer have to leave the arena to inherit skills, which is nice. But they also fixed the SP deficit problem with a paid DLC emblem. So basically, a pay-to-win mechanic is a problem in the core game design, which is not so nice. Chapter maps themselves are fairly well designed with a lot of variety to be unique without feeling too gimmicky like Fates Revelation maps were. Level up, level down, what the hell? For the most part, there are fewer enemies per map than in previous FE games. They implemented anti-turtling techniques like villages to visit, thieves to stop, and reinforcements spawn behind you telling you to hurry your ass up. The felt like reinforcements were pretty well timed in that I wouldn't spend several turns moving units in the backfield to catch up with everyone else, and instead everyone was engaged in combat. That being said, it is evil to have a ton of reinforcements later maps, but they don't give you any experience, especially in a game where you can level grind anyways, so what's the point? There's not a ton of class variety, and not a lot of theming around what enemies you fight. Some previous games might be like, go to the mountain country so you fight more wyvern lords, so you go to the plains country so you fight more nomadic troopers. That's not an Engage. You're fighting every enemy type for most of the game. But I wish the game did a better job of showing which enemies have ranged weapons equipped at a quick glance, like Tellius games have. But on the plus side, most of the bosses move in this game, and they have multiple health bars, you can't just solo them with a lucky critical. You gotta use strategy of surrounding them with 4 backup units, then JoJo meme them. On maps, multiple bosses, you'll be fighting one, and then the other one starts gunning it for you, creating some good tension there. The downside is there are so many, I've been defeated, but I can't fall here, repeat bosses, like holy shit. In a span of I think 6 chapters, 4 of those chapters have 2 of the same dudes fight you, and while they do sometimes have different emblem rings equipped, they're samey fights with the same classes using the same weapons. Engage's hit rates Fates' weird hybrid RNG system, which explains all the 3% hit chance I got hit by it. It got so bad at one point, I was afraid that a 0% chance was still gonna hit. You can usually go through an entire FE game without getting hit by anything lower than like 30%. But here, 80% never seemed so low, and 20% never seemed so high than when I was playing Engage. With weapon durability gone, designers decided, alright, the player doesn't need to buy any weapons because the player don't need any money. So you will be broke the entire game, especially if you're not doing grind skirmishes, and especially if you're not using Ana, which I wasn't, and especially if you didn't shill for the day 1 DLC, which I did not. They give you so little money that buying basic heal staffs becomes a legitimate financial concern. I was able to stay at a debtor's prison by selling the basic weapons you get from the purple squares, which you only get access to if you're connected to the internet. Overall, with Engage nuke attacks and forged crit weapons and chain attacks and the break weapon triangle, Engage gives you a ton of options to do buku damage to the enemies. They can either balance it by carefully crafting levels and enemy placement around with different skills, or who's to give everyone a fuck ton of health and defense. Most enemies on hard mode were really slow damage SpongeBobs. Even Swordmasters, who are known for their speed, were pretty slow. It felt like I had no choice but to use these forged killing weapons and rely on RNG luck to be able to defeat these chancy enemies. And sometimes the AI acts a little goofy. In one chapter, Chloe got hit by a ballista because this game likes to cheat, and she was at 1 HP. But then the enemy flyers attacked Tamara instead of trying to finish off Chloe? Alright. In Sigurd's paralogue, I didn't record most of my playthroughs, so I'll draw some pictures. Sigurd is safely on the second fort with fort bonuses. You conquer the first fort, and then a Kaga Konga line comes out of the second fort, so I'm like, oh my fucking god, there's so many enemies. But then Sigurd uses his Mambo movement to go in front of all the enemies, and the objective is kill Sigurd, so you have to fight a single one of the reinforcements. And I'm like, oh, that explains why Sigurd died in his game. He bad at the strategy. Here's my starting lineup for Engage Endgame. Please keep in mind, this was my first playthrough. I did not look up any characters or classes or skills or growth rates in advance. I was guessing to figure things out, so I promise you, I was not cooking with these builds. And I regret not experimenting more. And here's some characters may look low level. That's because I promoted early, maxed them out to level 20, then used the second seal to reset them in their same class at level 1. First up, we got Bebsy and Lucina. After I maxed out her Divine Dragon unique class, I switched her to Swordmaster with a little X-Men logos. She probably would have been better off with Marth after switching her to a backup class. The dual assist is redundant here, but it was near the end of the game, so I decided to have it. Chloe and Lynn, she was the dodge tank. Most of the game, enemies would have 0% hit chance on her. You can't get broken if you can't get hit. That's all I'm saying. Naka and Violet. She was a thief most of the game, but changed her to Furry Knight for 1 extra movement. I would employ her as a lesser dodge tank and Goddess Dancer and knife chip damage, but often when she would attack, she landed critical instead, which I'm not going to complain about. Goldberry and Erica, Crit Queen. She would take out those fucker dragons in a single attack. And I'm pretty sure Erica is the best emblem in the game. Ivy and Corrin. She's pretty good at everything. Pretty good magic, pretty good healing, pretty good movement. I don't think I had Ivy engage with Corrin a single time. I just used Corrin as a stat backpack. And at the time, I did not know Corrin's full potential. Corrin joins on a dancer, not the best tutorial level. In fact, I might have had Ivy use a freeze staff instead of, engaging with Corrin and doing a normal attack. Tamara and Ike, she was my team's tank. I heard everyone else use General Louis. Mine couldn't keep up and get enough combat to stay relevant. And Sandstorm is the best class bow in this game. It just beats everything. Bogato and Sigurd. He was there for Bow Knight chip damage and Canto away to safety. The longbow is very useful in this game. And I mostly had him engage with Sigurd just for the extra movement. Rosato and Leaf. Rosato was amazing in his joining chapter, and not as good in the subsequent chapters, but live rewards are always at least pretty good. Bulky flies are great for your utility. Rosato is good at holding off those 9 live reward reinforcements towards the end of the game. Also, Leaf might be the worst emblem in this game. They did him dirty. Seagull and Micaiah. Dancers are useful utility units to make your good units be good twice in 1 turn. I gave him Micaiah to heal or warp or freeze staff in case of emergency. That being said, I don't think I had him use a staff a single time. Celica paired with Caitlyn for the Unova Elite 4. Most of my mages were staff bots, and so it was time to fight armor units. I'd bring them to the front to do magic, and then fall right back. Warp Ragnarok is cool, but if there's more than 1 enemy nearby her target, she's too squishy to warp in and then stay there. Latrine, nope, Citrine, and Marth. I ran out of characters and emblems, so she got Marth by default. She was mostly a staff bot with thunder chip damage. But 1.5 Elwins on triple respawn and Wyvern Wards? characters. Yeah, really useful. Diamant and Roy, fucking terrible. Easily my worst unit. Should have benched him as soon as he joins. Holy shit, he was bad. So it was quite fitting for him to be paired with Roy, the worst lord in the series. Diamant's personal skill makes the enemy more powerful. You use swords? Hit rate should not be an issue. He's the only character in the game with soul, which procs off of Dex. So of course his Dex maxes out at 22. He's my only character that maxed out any stat. I'd have to give him a special little forged brave axe and engage with Roy to level up his stats to get him on the same level as the rest of my units at base. And even then, at one point I had to body block him with my mages? My mages could take hits better than engaged Diamant? There were two other units who joined late game and contributed so little they're not even worth mentioning. Most early game units I had dropped off. Your Jagan is more Jagan than Jagan. I was planning on using Abs Lady and Poochie Coochie. They fell off early for me. Maybe I'm just growing senile, but this is the first FE game where I didn't know everyone's name. Cram and Flam are this unit's Christmas duo, and the first two units you meet, I literally forgot they were in the game. I was using Alfred for more than half the game, but my guy did not level speed at all. Look at this! And I tried using John, but he just couldn't keep up, even after multiple arena access to the face. New playable units in Engage are very frequent and very front-loaded. There are 36 playable characters and 26 chapters, plus 15-ish paralogs, most of them available later in the game. You have 22 characters by chapter 11, and 32 by the start of chapter 16. Keep in mind, on most maps, you can only deploy 10 to 12 units. Part of this is because Engage runs into the Fire Emblem Fates problem, where every character is 3 characters, a royal, and their 2 retainers. And in each chapter, it's always like new units, new units, new units. In the first 16 chapters, I think there's only one level where you don't get a new guy. This makes sense early on. Like chapters 1 through 5, you're still fleshing out your army. But pretty soon it becomes too many. Maybe this fits if you're playing on Classic and you suck ass at Fire Emblem, but I don't think most players will be permanently losing this many units every chapter early on in the game? Hello? There aren't many memorable strategic recruitments where the player has a gameplay-related memory of these characters. Most of them just join. Remember in FE7 where you go to the desert to save some mage from bandits, but then the mage whoops everyone's ass by himself using a spell you hadn't seen yet. And he's like, I'm the mage General Venturia, but thanks for the assist, I guess. And at the same time, a wall of man shows up with a killer axe and hits critical after critical with a unique battle sprite animation. Remember in FE4 where you had to strategically kill all the units and the boss without accidentally killing or getting killed by Ira? These are examples of ways past Fire Emblems integrate character introduction, story progression, and gameplay into a memorable scenario. And Engage doesn't really do that. Your only strategy is fighting strategy. I believe there's only one enemy character you recruit during a chapter just by talking. 2 or 3 other phase characters you recruit by talking to them. All of these are very easy to do. The rest are just given to you for free right at the start of a chapter. Most Engage does is, before you fought a guy, now they're your guy. As a result, characters don't get much of a chance to shine and leave an impression before they hit the bench. And because we're so married to the weapon triangle in this one, and unpromoted characters can't use more than one weapon type, it's like, for example, Lapis joins and I'm like, cool, we had 1 sword and 3 lances. Another sword user would be great. But in the chapter right after that, you get 2 more sword users. And every time you meet new guys, you can't remove deployment slots to make room for new units. So I didn't even get a chance to really use Lapis. So instead of being excited to use new guys, I'm annoyed at these new guys because I have to bench someone I wanted to use for this new guy who I don't even know. And in higher difficulties, a small gap in stats makes a huge difference, especially in the early game. So missing an entire chapter, the Lapis girl didn't ever get a chance to catch up at all. In fact, I had to look up her name when writing this. Strategy gameplay summary. Overall, despite my nitpicks, the turn-by-turn strategy gameplay is some of the best in the series. Hard Classic was a good amount of satisfying challenge for me without feeling unbeatable, and the focus on player phase actions over enemy phase watching makes the player feel more strategically empowered, especially with all the options the game gives you. With a few exceptions, this shit encourages the player to play more offensively than defensively. That being said, I personally would still prefer larger maps, larger movement, more enemies to fight so each individual character has more time to shine, a less front-loaded roster, and less reliance on previous series nostalgia and temporary power-ups over consistent strategy throughout each chapter, also known as every single Fire Emblem game made before this one. The rest of this video is not going to be nearly as positive because large chunks of Fire Emblem Engage kinda suck ass. The presentation, I'm of 2 minds. On one hand, graphically, Engage looks fantastic. From the drab color palette of Genealogy, to the vomit-inducing compressed 3D models of the DS games, to Awakening models not having feet, to 3 houses looking like the prettiest PS2 game you've ever seen, Fire Emblem has never set world records in the looks department. games. But Fire Emblem Engage over here is the cleanest looking FE game, from its bright color palette to its lighting to the definition of its character models. And the animation is top notch. I'd still argue that Three Houses did have some pretty good animations, other than the combat arts and critical hits, which was mostly because any unit could use any weapon. However, Engage's battle animations blow it out of the water. The game makes really good use of camera zooms and Mushi particle effects for that extra pop. My only nitpick is the Swordmaster Nothing Personnel Kid. Crit animation is really funny the first time and really underwhelming all subsequent times. Cutscenes are really well animated, but sometimes feel empty. A few characters standing in a big empty room. Could use better staging, or just smaller rooms. Another thing I used to mention at all since it was expected, the frame rate, as far as I can tell, has always been stable. Windmills spin more than 2 frames per second, unlike other recent games. On the other hand, some of the indoor areas look good, like the Seoul Castle level, but some outdoor areas feel kind of uninspired, but ultimately fine. And then there's the overall art direction. Look, I don't shit on games I haven't played for myself, but I make an exception for Genshin Impact. Fuck this knockoff Breath of the Wild looking ass casino ass game. I am gacha game hater numero uno, and Genshin Impact is chief gacha. My morning routine involves hopping up out of bed and sipping on that Genshin Impact haterade. If Genshin has no haters, then alert the authorities, as I have been slain by the lightning booty sword lady. So when I say that this game's aesthetic heavily reminds me of Genshin Impact, it's not a compliment. The Somniel looks fine, but also looks like a town in a Tales of game that you'd visit once. It's a place to go back to after every single battle, so you'll be seeing it more than anywhere else. I'm not a huge fan of base areas in general in FE games, but while the monastery of Three Houses felt more like a place where people lived and worked, the base from Three Hopes felt like a fortress base camp, the Mind Palace from Fates you could customize and arrange yourself, but the Somniel feels more like a theme park or a zoo where you admire your characters but don't really interact with them in any sort of meaningful way. More on that later. Presentation summary. It's probably the best looking FE game in this series. However, I would have preferred to see it showcase more of its own unique aesthetic instead of simply following popular trends of today. The music. What music? This was the biggest disappointment for me, y'all. To be clear, none of the music is bad, but it's also stock. It's serviceable. In Fire Emblem and JRPG as a whole usually has some of the best video game soundtracks, since the gameplay is basically filling out a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. All the window dressing needs to be top notch, but here it's fine. Like, it's not good, it's good enough. It's just background noise. I don't know if it's the samples used, but the musical canvas is not fully covered and left thin.
That's a really tiny clover field. Like a pillager
When I
place
play
or
other
something.
FE games, I'm enjoying the music as it's playing, usually humming the soundtrack between play sessions. I cannot remember a single song from Engage. I think the desert music goes, hey, but that's it.
Yep. Look at that guy being chilling on the
The
shade.
exception that's the highlight of the soundtrack are the remix medleys of older FE games. These remixes are really good. They play one time during their respective paralogue, and in skirmish maps you can change to those songs in the settings. This game also runs into the Xenoblade 3 chain attack music problem, where the cool remix music that plays during player phase gets interrupted by the extremely generic enemy phase music, and attacking the boss once completely stops the cool music for the rest of the map in favor of the generic boss fight plays on every map. As sound designers, if you have a unique one-off song playing, maybe don't interrupt it for music that plays all the time.
Whoa. The heck?
original Engage song I do remember is the fucking 4Kids anime opening that plays every time we turn the game on. And I only remember that song because it is so fucking terrible. I've listened to and performed so many different genres of music from across the world and across time. This is one of the worst songs I'd ever heard.
I thought I was the only one. It seems a lot of people really do think this song sucks. I'm
And
glad.
it's pretty catchy in the same way that Herpes is catchy. I'm not sure how many layers of irony deep we are when people say they love it, but it perfectly encapsulates the Saturday morning cartoon tone of the game. To be fair though, the remix Final Boss version of it sounds pretty good. Hold up, there's not even a recruitment theme in this game, and they changed the level up jingle that's been the same for 12 of the past 13 games, and in all the spin-off games? Put this soundtrack in gay baby jail. Music summary. The remixes of old songs are cool, none of the new music is bad, but none of it stuck with me either, which is the part of JRPGs I look forward to the most, the music. I was mostly underwhelmed by this game's soundtrack compared to previous entries in the series, especially recent entries. Personality and character design. Kinda looks like shit. It's been memed on to death at this point, but it's worth reiterating. Why are the main character options fucking Pepsi Man and Colgate-chan? People have gotten used to it in a getting kicked in the balls repeatedly stops hurting after the 1000th time sort of way, but y'all, this looks very silly. Why did they not simply engage with better character design? Why did they not engage with color theory? And believe it or not, yes, there is an in-story reason for the hair. But if they wanted to go with a two-tone theme, they could have done it with just the eyes, or done ombre? We could have done ombre hair that fades from one color to another. In fact, later in the game, some engaged units do this, and it looks a lot better than going. Other characters do not look nearly as bad as the main character you will be seeing every chapter in store cutscenes. However, every character looks like a VTuber. As someone who is 30 years old and doesn't watch VTubers, that's not really a compliment. Most of these people look like they're a single GTA 5 scene away from being featured in a VTuber N-word compilation, which happens surprisingly frequently. But what do I mean by that? It's not because every character was
The heck,
designed
the
by a
Wandering
literal
Trader is still
VTuber
here?
artist whose full-time
Do you still have the-
specialty is on VTubers,
You still have the
which
Trident trait?
Instead, these characters look more like they were designed to be
Holy
eye-catching,
fucking
colorful,
shit.
instead of looking like they're all from the same setting, or, you know, warriors fighting in a war. Fire Emblem character design usually has one foot in each bin of lettuce. Good looking, and it looks like some type of soldier. Just look at Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, Shadows of Valentia. Honestly, every game made in the past 20 years. Colorful, distinct designs, but they still look like, you know, they can fight. Engage, not so much. I don't get the sense that someone like Amber or Bennett have ever thrown a punch before, you know, let alone killed hundreds of people. There's also a lot of child soldiers in this one, like way more than normal. There's 4 distinct countries, but characters from the same country don't look like they're from the same country. Characters can have distinct designs while also having connective tissue between this world's cultures. It's not mutually exclusive. In an obviously extreme example, look at Hoshido vs. Momo characters in Fates, or Sakeans in FE6 and 7. In Engage, there's no prominent connective cultural through line in style or appearance. It feels like they designed a bunch of wacky anime characters in a vacuum and randomly assigned where they're from. Seoul is a desert country with lots of sunlight. The Seoul royal family looks like this, but the other Seoul characters look like this. And I can't help but go, I don't know, I would have done it that way. When reviews said that Engage dials back the social sim aspects from Three Houses, I thought they meant like you couldn't do the tea parties and the face petting minigame, features I didn't do anyways. I thought it might be more like this game, which I really like. I didn't know they meant the characters in Engage never have a single interesting thing to say. Most of the characters aren't annoying. I said most, which I guess in modern JRPGs we should take that as a major W. But for the most part, engaged characters barely have a personality or backstory, with one papaya-shaped exception. And instead, each one shares one or two fun facts like it's a corporate icebreaker before a ropes course. I like partying. I like weird food and fairy tales. I like cute things. I'm Kmart Claude. I like small animals. I have abs. I'm a chef. It's simultaneously ridiculous and underwhelming. I think Asterisk Man said it best.
Ah.
I may speak in a way that suggests a deeper meaning, but rarely is that actually the case. It is simply another way of killing time. Idle amusement, nothing more.
Wow.
I like alpacas. But I ride a horse? Why not let him ride an alpaca in the battle? Give him an alpaca class. Fuck it. But the thing is, all the social sim activities are still there. You can talk to your units, have meals with them, have them watch you while you're sleeping. What the fuck?
What?
It's all just half-assed here. I mentioned this earlier in the gameplay section, but characters don't have time to make much of an impression during their joining chapter before they're benched for the next guys who also don't leave much of an impression. Over time, Fire Emblem games have had more moments where side characters get to have more of a presence, being it through showing up later in a main story cutscene when it's relevant, to having unique conversations with certain bosses they have a connection with, to sections where they comment on the events in the story between chapters, having dedicated paralogs. In Engage, the trend line goes backwards in this regard. Characters say their 2 lines in the story, or sometimes 4 lines if they're a secondary goal, and then afterwards they might as well not even be there. It wasn't until the last stretch of chapters I was able to make any sort of attachment to their gameplay utility. I don't like Goldberry because she's
Oh,
stuck
no.
up underneath the pirate proportions. I like Goldberry because she can one-shot those big fucker dragons for me. But it took a long time to get there. The best characterization is some of these illustrations that happen during the credits. People love these types of drawings in Fire Emblem. Things like this would have been better served during the main game, not during the ending. So that leaves characters to be more developed in their optional support conversations. A shortcoming of many recent FE games is quantity over quality of support conversations, and in Engage, it's hit a breaking point. One note personalities can work for like a boss who shows up, says 2 or 3 funny lines, then dies, but doesn't carry well when each playable character has like 33 support conversations and 36 bond conversations. Man, that's just too many. I obviously have not seen every support combo, but of the ones I did see, it was like 30% decent, 70% not worth your time. Surprisingly, I think the 3 Hopes Warrior spin-off game did it best where not every support level has its own conversation. So you don't spend hours listening to writers try and fill their word quota. There's so much filler dialogue in this game. You can talk to characters after the battle. Don't. There is nothing here. You can talk to your characters in the sound meal between chapters. Don't. There is nothing here. If they didn't want to write unique dialogue for every single one of these characters for every single chapter, then this would have been a great opportunity to bring back base conversations with Tellius games, where specific characters have special conversations with each other that are relevant to the events in the game, but instead, Somniel is a zoo, and not because you can have an actual zoo here. Characters are only there to be looked at, admired at a surface level, and no meaningful way to engage with them. These vapid support conversations take place in a vacuum, completely segregated from the story. We're in the middle of a war campaign against the Bell Dragon, but now we can teleport across the planet and have camping trips. We're fighting a war against the Demon Dragon. But yeah, let's just go to multiple frat parties. Hey look, it's my suspension of disbelief. There are enough distractions in the Somniel to trick yourself into thinking you're not playing Fire Emblem anymore. Like a pretty good mission minigame. You can play dress up with all your characters in the base, but not in battle, so what's the point? And a shitty TDR minigame, and a shitty pointless fortune telling minigame, and a shitty Panzer Dragoon minigame, and a shitty button mash minigame, which on hard mode causes physical pain in real life. The best new addition of Engage is Sam, a little pet who follows you around and helps you with the minigames. I previously joked about how this game is Fire Emblem Heroes 2, but now that I've played it, yeah, it sort of is. Now, the cynical me, who rarely shows up, you guys, says that Fire Emblem Engage was specifically designed to appeal to players of Fire Emblem Heroes, the mobile gacha game that made $1 billion from 10,000 whales. Even though the player base has been dropping off since, it's been 6 going on 7 years since launch, Engage has a bland story that focuses on summoning characters from other FE games. Mobile game exclusive character designs on the mural that opens up Engage. Smaller maps with smaller or movement of your enemies, needing to spend SP to learn skills. Skill descriptions having the same cadence as mobile game skills. Engage having a stupid-ass gacha game system doesn't need to fucking be here. S-rank gacha rates having a 3% chance, the same chance as a 5-star hero in Heroes. Tempest Trials, the multi-map mode from Heroes being in Engage. A DLC emblem who's a mobile game exclusive character whose special ability is literally to play Fire Emblem Heroes mid-battle. And Engage having an in-game bonus for linking mobile game save data, a game on a different system that came out 6 years ago, despite there not being any similar such bonus for having save data for the other more recent Fire Emblem games also on the Switch, such as Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hosts, Tokyo Mirage Session, Sharp FE, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, or Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. It definitely feels like at least part of the design methodology was, did you play Fire Emblem Heroes? Well then try Fire Emblem Engage. It's kinda similar.
I don't want to try
Heroes
exploring
is
the...
a doo-doo game, and by that I mean I only play while
Exploring a
sitting
bit
on
now
the
that I
toilet.
got a
Shout out
backpack.
to Altina who carries my team in Aether defense, even though I haven't played in months. And even though I strongly dislike Heroes,
Exploration
I dislike
in
all
Minecraft
gacha
definitely
games.
isn't
There's
fun.
nothing
That's one of the
inherently
weakest
wrong
points
with
of the
wanting to
game.
appeal to
For
players
a
of Heroes, but
sandbox
the cynicalness
open
is that
world
Engage
game,
passes as a
it
front
sure
load
doesn't
with
make
really
its open
easy
world very
improvements because
fun.
people don't finish games, so they want you to see as many
And
characters as
it
possible.
wasn't the
So when
case
these new
until
characters come around
Elytras
in
came
the
out,
future
but
gacha
even
game
then,
summing banner,
the fact
you'll
that
recognize them and be
fun
more likely
and
to
efficient
spend money on
exploration
them.
is
I do not spend money on
locked
heroes,
behind
but if I did, I feel like
post-game
I'd be more likely to spend money
content
on
is
characters that I like,
very
that I
iffy.
formed a bond with through gameplay, not just
Okay,
ones
what was I
I
gonna
see
do?
and
Oh, right, I
recognize,
wanted
you know?
to- I
But what do
wanted
I
to
know? I'm
fucking-
not the target audience for gacha. Oh, and I wouldn't be surprised if either Emblem Rings or the Engage mechanic is brought into Heroes, or at the very least, Engage Alien, Engage Diamond, etc. are brought in as power-crept alternatives in the future. Character design summary. The character designs prioritize being eye-catching and following popular trends over simply looking good and fitting the setting of the story they are in. Recent
I
FP
wanted
games have
sand.
made steps to flesh out more of their supporting cast.
I need
Engage
glass.
chooses not to do that at all. The best way I've heard the Engage designs described is that they look like pop stars performing as warriors in a school play, not actual warriors fighting a war. Speaking of elementary school plays, the story. What story? There's no story. It fucking sucks. To say that Fire Emblem has always had bad stories is to admit you've not really played Fire Emblem, or maybe didn't pay attention, or maybe you've only played these two and repeat internet talking points about this one from people who hyper-obsessed over it and overanalyzed it to the point where they convinced themselves it was bad actually. In Fire Emblem, there are good stories, there are serviceable stories, and there are bad stories. But the only thing worse than a bad story is a bland story, and that's what Engage is. At least Fates had some funny parts, intentionally or not. We can all laugh at it. It's a great example for future writers of what not to do, and most importantly, they actually fucking tried. They failed spectacularly. This is not a Fates Was Secretly a Masterpiece video, but playing Engage's story gave me greater appreciation for Fates, because at least there, they didn't go for the most cookie-cutter, brain-dead, lifeless, limp dick story ever put to print. You know, Mario games usually have pretty bland stories, but Mario doesn't have a dozen hours of cutscenes where characters have the most generic dialogue you've ever heard. Meanwhile, in Engage, the characters talk so much while saying nothing that the Switch starts going into power save mode. Even the console is falling asleep with this garbage. You know, I usually have a spoiler chart in these types of videos, or have a spoiler and non-spoiler section. I did not do that here because there is nothing to spoil. Look at the key art. Go ahead and try to predict it. What do you think the story is? You are correct. Actually, divide your low expectations in half first. That's the story. Whatever you think might happen, happens. And I don't have high standards for video game stories. I'm not expecting fucking To Kill a Mockingbird here. In a video game, as long as I want to see what happens next, I consider that a decent enough story. I think in a story-driven genre like JRPGs, the story should not be so bland that I'm tempted to hit the skip button on a first playthrough. And I know other people who did, because they'd had enough. Corny doesn't even begin to describe it. If the people of Iowa played this game, they would forsake the Bible. Fire Emblem Engage is the new god of war. You meet a mysterious short character, and then meet another mysterious short character. They're the same person? What? There's multiple fucking pinky promises. Hey guys, I'm a dad. In Fire Emblem. Oh god, why? Characters seconds before they die in a cutscene? Of course. The Dragon Girl is actually your sister? Why not? The main character dying, then coming back to life, then dying, then coming back to life? Sure! Marth looks directly into the camera and says, "You are the Fire Emblem?" Enemies attempting to appear sympathetic as they're dying, like an episode of Demon Slayer. Stop doing this! This is bad storytelling! I'm cartoonishly evil. All I wanted is a family, but I've had a found family this whole time and I'm just now realizing it as I'm dying. Oh no! Maybe put this type of scene before the boss fight so the player is thinking about it while they're fighting. The game literally quotes Mewtwo from the first Pokemon movie. Your character is the Divine Dragon. Does not transform into a dragon unless you bought the DLC. Oh my god. There's a last-minute exposition dump truck by the final boss. All this shit just coming out of nowhere, going on about multiverses and Zero Emblem. What the fuck are you talking about? My guess is that it's referring to Henri, a character who has not appeared in a Fire Emblem game outside of like a vague silhouette and a costume from Marth in the mobile game. And don't get me wrong, the cheesy story can be fun. A game like Wonderful 101, it's self-aware of the cheese and leans into it. Makes it really entertaining. Meanwhile, while Engage does have some lighthearted moments that may land depending on your sense of humor, overall it tries to take its boring story, boring characters, and boring dialogue super seriously, especially towards the end. At one point, a woman shows up and says, "Hiya, papaya." This is unironically the best written line of dialogue in the entire game because it ties into the character. Naka has a whole backstory. She's an assassin on the run, so she hides her past behind her overly upbeat personality, but it sometimes slips out in her supports and crit quotes. She gets a whole chapter dedicated to just her, where she uses her thief class to see in the dark and uses Emblem Micaiah to heal. She leaves a memorable impression. Yunaka is a fan favorite character because she's one of the only characters they actually wrote. Also, she has two mobilities. It's cheesy and entertaining. More of the game should have been like this, but it's not. Here's the story on the Do I Give a Shit-O-graph. In chapters 1 through 9, nothing remotely interesting happens here. It's just, get the rings, fight the evil army and zombies along the way. But then at the end of chapter 10, the big twist happens. And by big twist, I mean your expectations are so low that this little bump seems incredible, even though it's the dumbest thing in Fire Emblem history since Erika simply handed Lion the last sacred stone. And look behind you, it's the Elite Four. Ha! When you turned around a second ago, I somehow took all 6 of your emblem rings and time crystals, now I can revive the fell dragon! What? I'm not even joking, this happens exactly like this. From a gameplay perspective, it makes sense to take the rings away. You've learned their abilities through usage, maybe even overly relied on them, now you have to fight the bosses using them. But I don't know, in the cutscene, maybe cast a spell or something, goddamn! Chapters 12 through 19, it's slightly better, but still not much here either. It's more, get the rings, fight the evil army and zombies. Then chapters 20 through 26, it tries to speedrun having an actual story, but at this point, 40 plus hours in, it has established so little goodwill with me that I do not care at this point. Some people have said that the story really picks up at the end. I could not disagree more. It's more so like if you've only ever drank lead poison tap water your whole life, and then you take a sip of Diet Cherry Vanilla Pepsi and go, this must be the nectar of the gods. No, it's fucking Pepsi. I'm glad the game has a simpler story. I don't want to hear any more war crime discourse on Twitter. Or, the game shouldn't intentionally be made worse because a few people can't log off. You can have simple stories and still tell it in an engaging way, through interesting character interactions and good dialogue. For example, Shadows of Valentia is a remake of Fire Emblem 2 and keeps the broad strokes plot synopsis basically the same. Fight the evil army, kill the dragon. But I'm enthralled in every story sequence because the game establishes their characters well and has entertaining dialogue.
But if our ship is astray, then we must chart a new course. Oh, is that course? I'll rip that traitorous tongue from your throat! Then you'll finally have the truth in your grasp. I lost friends at the Southern Outpost. Veteran men get dead on the sea.
Finally! It took you long enough. Very rude to keep a princess waiting. Very rude indeed.
Princess?
That would be me, the second princess of Illusia, Hortensia! Now then, hello, everybody!
As more blood remorse, resentment, despair. I have dispensed with all such things to come this far.
No matter how much lingering regret a person has, after death, they are powerless. They cannot even wish for revenge, much less seek it out. Hatred, regret. Those burdens fall on the shoulders of those who are left behind.
I guess fell dragons have to die in the end. But I want it to be good dragons.
Obviously, these are different games with different tones and different objectives in their storytelling, but this contrast is clearly a regression in quality. I'm not sure where the entertainment value is supposed to come from. Engage's story mainly functions to set up interesting chapter designs. The story serves the gameplay instead of story and gameplay working in tandem. I do not think that good dialogue and good gameplay are mutually exclusive. You can have both. Engage does not. Most of Engage's dialogues pretty
I
much
didn't
we
know
have
it
to go
perfectly
here
made
and
things
defeat the Bell
symmetrical.
Dragon, but
I
said
lied.
like a billion words. There's no lore or world building beyond the absolute barest necessities. You can donate the cost of a couple of iron swords to double a country's economic output? What the fuck? I don't even think there's an explanation of how the emblem rings even exist beyond the end of the game going, multiverse! The game does not have a lighter tone, the game has no tone. And I feel bad for the voice actors in scenes where they're clearly trying their best with such a wooden script and so little story to tell. We must stop the Fell Dragon. Welcome to Brodia, my friend. I will help you stop the Fell Dragon. Are my standards just too high? Should I bang my frontal lobe against a cement block and shut up and enjoy the pretty anime characters saying the most basic things? Is that all it takes? Is that all it takes? Is that all it fucking takes? As an anniversary game, Fire Emblem Engage also has the difficult task of telling its own story with its new characters and incorporating 12 previous main characters from 16 Fire Emblem games. It balances this by, half-assing the first part and straight up not doing the second part at all. I remember learning that the emblems can talk and have memories of the events from their games somehow. I thought it might be like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang would sometimes consult his previous lives for advice. They tell a little story and talk about what they learned from their experience. Nope, the emblems have nothing interesting to say. Despite Marth being the largest character on the art every time you turn the game on, you could replace Marth with fucking CJ from Grand Theft Auto, and the story would be exactly the same. Ah, shit. Here we go again. Why bring back all these characters and then proceed to not use them? Again, everything in the game is to be looked at, not to be engaged with. Hey Lucina, you fought a Fell Dragon before. You've been through some shit. What do you think of our current conflict? My ring returns to the ring chamber after battle, and I return to whoever wore it last. Okay, great, thanks, Lucina. Really nice talking to you. There are Bond conversations that are mostly filler, but a few times they vaguely reference their own game. I had an accident with fire magic as a kid. Now I'm afraid of it. Yeah, that reminds me of the time where me and all my friends were burned to death right after I learned my kidnapped wife had been brainwashed so she wouldn't remember me or our child. Fuck you, Diamant. Instead, any story reference to previous games is completely isolated in their own respective paralogue, where you play a watered-down version of a pivotal chapter from their game with no context other than the Cliff Notes story synopsis. Maybe, as an anniversary game, it would have made more sense to have these types of chapters interwoven into the story, not an optional bulbous growth off of the main game. Playing these paralogs are just like a reminder of better games I could be playing right now instead. Maybe these types of chapters would have served
That's
better
a lot
as a
of
tutorial
polygons.
of what each emblem ability does, instead of a couple PowerPoint slides where you get the ring. Also, Link's paralog isn't even from a game that she is in. What the hell? Why not use the final chapter from Lin Mode, or the chapter where she joins Eliwood and Hector, or something? Given that this is supposed to be an anniversary game, a celebration of the Fire Emblem series, it feels very tacked on. The connection to the rest of the series is the same type of enjoyment you get from seeing Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man 1. I recognize Thing! It's exciting in the moment, but doesn't have any lasting impact. The final boss summons the final bosses from each game as emblems, which is what the story should have been. You summon the heroes, the villain summons the villains, they fight, but like, they couldn't even put in the portraits for the villains? Was this like a last minute addition after seeing fan theories and realizing that's a much better idea than you fight Marth, but he's red? At least the death quotes were all the same, that part was pretty cool. Story summary. Fire Emblem often has entertaining stories to tell in one way or another. There is very little entertainment value to be found in Engage's story or dialogue, and the characters from previous FE games are entirely wasted here. The best way I've heard Engage's story described is they took the script to every FE game except the Tellius ones, fed them into an AI, and had a fucking chat GPT write the game. What's supposed to be a serious celebration feels more like an unintentional parody at best, or a cynical satire at worst, written by someone who's either never played Fire Emblem, despises Fire Emblem, or does not feel like stories in video games can be good or should even try to be good. Overall summary. What we have here is a classic Patrick Star situation, where the gameplay designers, artists, and animators were on Red Bull and Adderall, but the scenario team and dialogue writers showed up on the last day of development sniffing horse tranquilizers. If you only want to play some good-ass strategy maps and do not care about the story, I'm giving you the green light. No, the recommendation to skip all of the dialogue. The 30% that is decent is not worth the 70% that's a complete waste of time. If you're here for the story, well, I hope you get more enjoyment out of it than I did, but comparing it to the standards set by previous entries and the standards of the time in which this game was released, I am very disappointed. Fire Emblem Engage is a sine wave of enjoyment. For me, gameplay is king, but watching hours of story cutscenes so you have context for the gameplay? That's gameplay, or at the very least, part of the experience, and shouldn't be treated like an afterthought. And its overall presence feels like content for the sake of content. Like they made a checklist of everything Fire Emblem games have, but didn't stop to think, how do we execute these features to serve the overall game design and provide a positive experience for the player? While it's clear that those involved worked very hard to create a well-functioning, high-quality game, it's hard to tell if there was any emotional passion in its overall direction. There was less, hey, I have a really cool idea for the next game, and instead, we own the Fire Emblem IP, let's make another one and get some money. Hopefully there is a genealogy remake coming, especially with the slightly higher prevalence of Emblem Sigurd in the story than any other Emblem character, and as it stands, Fire Emblem Engage is both great and terrible. That being said, there's no true ambush spawn reinforcements, so it's still the best Fire Emblem gameplay in the past 10 years. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe. Obviously I'm just one person, so comment below how you feel about Fire Emblem Engage, and today's comment code word is dental hygiene. Comment dental hygiene if you made it all the way through the video, and that's it, video's over.
Oh, this is depressing. I just realized I've been playing for 3 hours now and I still haven't found... You know what? I think I should stop playing now. Yep, I'm gonna end things here. I need to go to bed.
To cook slime in a furnace, we can craft the new slime armor set. And then, wearing that new armor, we get some new abilities as well. Like the boots make us bouncy, so we don't take any fall damage when we land. And the helmet lets us stick underneath blocks, meaning we can hang from ceilings. And if you wear the full slime armor set, we'll get a permanent jump boost as well. But before you craft this armor, you should go to the nether first. Because by using magma cream instead of slime, we can craft the even stronger magma slime armor, which when you wear it, gives you the fiery aura ability, meaning any enemies that come nearby will take damage from your heat, all of which proves that you need a slime farm. Because now, we cook slime in a furnace, we can craft the new slime.
Okay.